story. 5 in the morning, and you hear my calling. I'm up in the morning, because I miss you yawning. 5 in the morning, morning.
Hello and welcome to the Proving Grounds Circuit Qualifier Recap. My name is Orbital and I, alongside Rude Dude, DJ, and Random Minion Caster, will be bringing you up to speed on what you might have missed here in Week 1. We'll be covering all groups that have been played thus far, so let's go ahead and get started with Group A.
100 Thieves next took game number 1 versus Team Ambition in fairly convincing fashion. But as soon as Anti got his hands on his Zed, it was a different story, invading the jungle from level 1. Forcing Fnatic all the way back to have a really rough start, and this snowballed all the way through with a first blood and some team fights in the mid game. Team Ambition leveled up the scores 1-1, but not before 100 Thieves next were able to show their class, their caliber that their organisation brings, and take the series home 2-1. Radiance and No Team, we had a stomp on either side. Griffin on the Hecarim, Crimson on a Tryndamere, which took us to a game 3, which saw Radiance a little worse for wear after a questionable level 1 misstep. From there on in, it was all a No Team taking fight after fight, kill after kill, and Scooped on his Caitlyn was able to carry the team to success.
The first series in Group B saw Golden Guardians Academy taking on University of California, Irvine. Golden Guardians were shell-shocked by a recurring cinnamon allergy in game number 1 that resulted in a vexing defeat. The pressure of the loss was no match for the cool heads and hands of Ryoma and Stixxay, however, as they led Golden Guardians to comeback victories in Game 2 and 3 for a narrow series win over their collegiate foes. The other half of Group B found Wildcard dueling it out with Bay State College Maroon. Last year's kings of the amateur circuit had their hiccups in both Games 1 and 2, but the diamond hands of their veterans Griffin and Alorum pulled out enough killer tricks to earn their team a 2-0 victory.
That means it's up to Benjani to engage on this one, but it's the responding engagement from Wildcard Gaming that is huge for them. It's going to be a flash over by Benjani to Strompus to get over that Emperor's Divide, and now the fight has been split. It's Rain trying to defend himself and trying to take the aggression away from Serenok.
Immortals AoE versus Winthrop University. All the analysts and casters predicted a simple win for IMT AoE, but Winthrop University had other plans. Avano in the mid lane took over the series, starting with the first kill of the game onto Shochi solo. But Immortals wouldn't be Immortals if they died that easily, and they fired back in game 2 with Anime Girl and Meech leading the charge, punishing all of Winthrop University, diving them repeatedly. In game 3, things were close, 14 kills apiece at that fateful Baron that could have given IMT AoE a win. Kenji comes in with an incredible steal to deny that, secure the Baron, and bring Winthrop on to the next stage. Dare Gaming versus Supernova. Theoretically, the closest match of Group C. Supernova came out the gate swinging with better macro and rotations, but Dare Gaming wasn't having any of it. They believe in one thing and one thing only, and that is team fighting, finding the one fight they need to turn and end the game. Game 2 had them brawling early and finding a quick lead, but they couldn't quite close the game out. Instead, they had to force Baron over and over again. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. But for Dare Gaming, it wasn't insanity, it was discipline. And eventually they found the catch, which won them the game.
As the opening series of Group D, Evil Genius's Prodigies were slated as favorites to take the series over Taco Gaming. However, things did not go as expected. Game 1 saw Taco Gaming look fairly strong, taking a cheeky victory over EGP thanks to some backdoor shenanigans. EGP fired back in Game 2 with some exceptional zoning quirky packages, as well as an all-star performance from Faisal's Gangplank, who remained unkillable to the very end. However, Taco Gaming completed the upset, where in Game 3, Trickster proved too strong and galloped his way to a Game 3 win. Maryville University took what many would say is a clean series over Dinka Never Homeless Again. Evan RL was allowed to shine in game number 1, firing away from the backline and racking up an impressive 12-1-9 scoreline. Game 2, get back an odd orange made the game look easy, as both were unkillable throughout the 20 minutes of game. Maryville's impressive play has forced Dinka Never Homeless again into the lower bracket to face off against Evil Genius's Prodigies for the final seed of the group. And with that, you're all caught up on week number 1. Of course, there's even more matches to be played, so make sure to tune in on Twitch through Unified Live as well as the LCS Academy stream. My name is Orbital, and once again, thank you so much for tuning in to the Proving Grounds Circuit Qualifier Recap.
The first week of the LCS Proving Ground Circuit Qualifiers have come and gone. There were some big plays, exciting debuts, and of course, some crazy upsets. Everybody loves a good Cinderella story, a miracle run, so to speak. But at some point you have to ask yourself, if there's enough consistency to the winning, a sort of method to the madness, is it even a miracle at all? Oh yeah, we're talking about it. Welcome back to Food for Thought. Dare Gaming have taken the PGCQ stage by storm, and almost nobody saw it coming. Despite being the lowest open qualifier seed out of any team to qualify for the main stage, Dare stomped through the OQs with a 4-1 record, taking down 4 teams seated in the top 16, and only losing to Golden Guardians Academy. After a 2-0 sweep against Supernova in the first round of groups, they are now just one best of 3 away from entering the quarterfinals as the number 1 seed in their group. This is an incredible feat for a team put together just days before official matches began, and with a roster with only 1 player with more than a year of competitive experience. But it hasn't been that young, unproven mechanical prowess that has gotten Dare wins so far. And somehow, that makes it all the more impressive. Despite their 6-1 record to start off the tournament, Dare's early game is actually not very good. Through their 5 games played in the open qualifier, Dare found themselves ranked in the bottom 3 in gold difference at 15, turret plates per game, and early game rating. Though some of these numbers are inflated from Golden Guardians Academy's 21-minute blowout victory against them in round 2, Dare hit the 15-minute mark at a gold disadvantage in 6 out of their 7 games played so far. Falling behind against laners like Doxa, Alorum, Ryoma, or Raheen is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. But somehow, despite starting almost every game on the back foot, Dare has been able to turn this into this. What happened? The late game is Dare's bread and butter. No matter how far behind they are, Dare always seem to create opportunities for themselves to get back into the game. Limo and Blossoms are able to find insane engages seemingly at the snap of a finger. Enigmas are rocking the mid lane with consistent control mage play. Censored, their top laner, has excelled in teamfights, playing a multitude of styles to equal amounts of success, while also putting up the 5th highest carried value out of all top laners throughout the OQs. And when it comes to damage, BMFX has the team's back, putting up the 5th highest post 15-minute damage share out of all players throughout the OQ, and ranking 4th in carried value amongst marksmen. While Dare's late game teamfighting is undoubtedly one of their strongest points, a lot of their success can be attributed to their brilliant setup around the Baron Pit, or as some call it, the Darren Pit. If the game is past the 20-minute mark, chances are you'll find Dare towards the top side of the map, threatening that big purple objective to keep the enemy on their toes. And if anybody missteps in even the slightest degree, Dare are ready to pounce on the objective, no matter the state of the game. Through Dare's 7 games played so far this year, they have started Baron a total of 10 times. Out of those 10 attempts, 7 were started with nobody dead on either team, 3 of them were started while Dare was down in gold, and 0 of these Barons were taken while Dare's gold lead was above 4,000. When you just look at the numbers, it may seem like Dare is being reckless, taking risky 50-50s while behind in an act of desperation to try and save the game. But that's not really the case. When they start Baron at the right time, Dare's opponents are forced into a lose-lose scenario. Give up the objective for free, or allow Dare to force a fight on their own terms, which is exactly what they want. All of Dare's Baron attempts so far have resulted in a net positive outcome for the team, with 4 of them even directly leading to a game-ending push. On top of that, Dare have an 89% Baron control rate, good for first among all competing teams at the tournament so far. While there's still some work to be done, a win over Winthrop University this Tuesday will give Dare first seed in their group. Through their late game teamfighting and pristine shot calling around objectives, This squad has fought their way through many amateur teams so far, and I'm expecting them to do more of the same as the season progresses. Well, it's not the 20-minute mark just yet, but I think I'm gonna head out. Don't want to take my chances in here when it's Darren time. I'll see you next week.
Fun little piece right there. The puns never really stop here, do they, Dean? Hello and welcome to the LCS Proving Ground Circuit Qualifiers. My name is Eric Desrooks Beltran. Joining me on the desk, of course, is the no-nonsense Dean, Rebel Fox Merrick. And Dean, the group stages, they're now producing some heat. Yesterday, we had our first 2 teams qualify for the bracket stage.
Our first week of games were really exciting because we started having testaments towards teams like 100 Thieves and Golden Guardians, and those are exactly the teams that came through for us yesterday, thankfully, with some of the strength and being able to finally qualify. We had our complaints of like UCI being challenged and all these other teams challenging them, but when the time came to actually full-on 2-0 qualify, the top of the top were able to get things done just yesterday.
So qualifications for 100 Thieves next and Golden Guardians Academy, which is going to lead us to today's matchup, Dean. And day number 4, the group stage is going to start off with the Collegiate Juggernauts, Maryville University, looking to take it to the dark horse of the tournament. Crunchy Shell and all, it's going to be Taco Gaming. You can catch that on twitch.tv/academy. And Dean, personally, I'm a big fan of Taco Gaming after we've seen those last couple of matches.
Yeah, Taco Gaming is, they have a pretty star-studded lineup. They've come from basically not having too much time to work together, but over the course of the tournament, they've significantly improved. They are against the titan of the tournament, however, because Maryville, they were one of the closest to bringing down 100 Thieves during the course of that open qualifier. They didn't drop another game. They completely smashed Dinka into extremely convincing performances against that team as well. So Maryville's definitely a titan against which you have to break. So the idea, of course, being I think that's going to swap in. This is the most interesting one, though, right? Because we had upsets in a couple of situations between Winthrop and Dare, where both of them were not expected necessarily to win out in their series specifically. They were both contested series at minimum, if not on Winthrop's side. We were expecting them to lose. So to walk in and one of these two teams to be guaranteed a spot into the next stage is kind of insane.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting one, which is leading us to our match today. Winthrop continuing to, at least trying to continue that ride of the high they had last week off that remarkable victory. Meeting up with the team that fell them in the open qualifiers, Dare Gaming, will be covered here today. Later today on the Academy stream, tournament favorites, Immortals AoE battle in the lower bracket against NAAM historic Supernova. Fortunately, no second game here on the unified stream. Dinka never homeless again. Dean, you could sum that one up for us.
Yeah, I mean, it was just that Eno unfortunately wasn't able to participate, and so because they didn't have a substitute ready to go, they weren't set up for a position in which they could continue going. So that means EGP is going to take on the loser, of course, of that in Maryville versus Taco Gaming. You might get a rematch of that matchup in the first round as well, where Taco Gaming EGP could be a nice, exciting one to watch as we continue. So that's what you see on the right side of your screen, the Group D as it's continued. Basically, the loser of our Academy game that's currently going on is going to be dropping and playing EGP for the next spot in Group D. And of course, Group C, again, Immortals expected to take this one in pretty convincing fashion, losing to Winthrop of all teams. And then Dare Gaming, of course, they had a really, really competitive series against Supernova that got very close. It would be upsetting to see Supernova kind of like full out lose against Immortals, but Immortals is an Immortal squad. I've heard incredible things about how they could even be the best team of the tournament in the right situation. So unfortunately, one of those two is going to have to drop after today, which is, to me, a little bit miserable because they were both incredible and showed us very good performances.
Man, Dean, I was hoping you'd go for the low-hanging fruit of the eviction notice on Dinka Never Homeless again, but I don't blame you keeping it professional there. But on that note, let's get into the matchup that we have today, and that is going to be Dare Gaming versus Winthrop University. Now, Dare is coming off of their 2-0 win against Supernova. It was a close game 1 and a dominating game 2, and what we've seen is there's a lot of talent on this roster, but there's a lot of young careers, as the Fruit for Thought has shown. Enigma being one of the more experienced players on this roster. He's put a lot of time into the Canadian scene. Despite all this, you still have players like BMFX, who are still looking like a stud and putting on these very consistent performances.
Yeah, funny enough, if you were to walk backwards, I think back into post PG summer and into like the fall and winter splits of what were like the tier 3, T4 type tournaments in like UPL, and you went scouting for players. The players you would have looked for were basically the entire bottom side minus BMFX because he kind of came out of nowhere. He was a substitute for Wildcard. Not a bunch of people knew his name prior. but the other one was Anime Girl, who's currently on Immortals AoE, and he went all crazy in scrims. So then the next one on the list would have been Censored. They basically went out and scouted the best of the best of the best from the next level, and they've come together in really convincing fashion. I think it's been incredible to watch the way that this team has come together. We watched some content about how their laning phase hasn't been strong. They're not the most aggressive leaning team, but the fact that they can build on a foundation of BMFX, who's been incredible, combined with Limo, who's just a 17-year-old inside of this tournament. We've been hyping up our 15-year-olds. Limo's just 17, and he's still popping off as well. So Dare has a lot of vertical longevity for how much they can develop, how well they can play in the future, and they're having good results now.
And then on the other side of the rift, Winthrop University. Now, too much gets talked about Winthrop's former roster. I'm the most guilty of bringing that up because I was a big fan of that roster. Well, this roster has shown that legacy does continue. That massive 2-1 upset against Immortals AoE was a pretty big start of the year. And though they're having some roster issues, you talked about it before, Frost Force dealing with COVID, Mordio having to step in, it's had little influence on the trajectory of this squad.
So actually, it was Kenji who was dealing. He was stuck in Spain with COVID. Now he's back, was able to step back in the previous week. And how about a shout out to the homie Frost Force, who's on C9 Academy, filling in for Malice as he's trying to get into the country. Let's go Winthrop representation inside of Academy. But even better is who is supposed to replace Frost Force? Frost Force is like a god tier jungler inside of Collegiate, really talented jungler in a number of amateur teams. Mordio has stepped up to the plate. Havano has stepped up in the place of Doxa as well. I think the laning for these two in the earlier games sometimes gets a little quiet, gets a little sloppy for the side of Winthrop, kind of similar to their opponents in that regard, that the early game might be a little bit quiet for both sides. But as you break into the mid and later stages of the game, they really start to come alive. We talk about a number of different players, and we'll get into them over the future of what we talk about on broadcast. But I foresee a very exciting series between these two, where team fighting is the biggest aspect that they share.
So we got to start breaking down these lane matches, because I know one of them you're kind of itching to get into. We get actually a lot of these we're kind of itching to get into. The one I want to start off with, though, is BMFX versus Vex, because both of these are hyper carries that bring quite a lot to their team. They're, as the Fruit for Thought said, BMFX bringing the most damage to his team, always bringing the pain there. And giving the grand scheme of things, BMFX, Supernova having the right idea to focus him down, but it shows that he can still play from behind. He still has great positioning. If left unchecked, it can suddenly become a Dare victory.
It can be. I think that was most on display during open qualifiers, where the team leaned on BMFX in very rough situations to help carry them out of the later game fights. It's a very team fight oriented type team, and that means that they're going to be built around their aspects of damage, whether that's like a Vel'Koz in the mid lane, but oftentimes, the ADC is going to be able to fill that role, which is why BMFX, I think, has shined quite a bit, even though the rest of his team has put together a really good foundation for him. Setting up their team fights also has been really important, but BMFX knows how to take advantage when he's not getting punished. There have been some positional mistakes. There have been some times where he's caught pushing far too far and getting punished by somebody on the opposite team, which is the one concern. The person who doesn't do that is the one with perhaps the most veteran experience of just about anybody inside of this tournament, or at least inside of this game, which is Vex on the opposite ADC role. He fulfills a very similar role, but he's incredibly safe with his positioning. Doesn't take very aggressive stances in the laning phase, will pick up as much farm as possible and scale into that late game alongside BMFX.
All right, we are ready to get into draft. Dare versus Winthrop University. Winner of this will be first in their groups and head over to the bracket stage. Loser of this will have to face off one more game. I do want to check up who is going to be the next up in that list. Who's still inside of that bracket. That is going to be the winner of Immortals AoE versus Supernova.
That's right, which is the second game over on Academy today. So we don't have a second game, so when you're done watching us go off on this game and seeing who gets to go into the tournament, you should check out that, because that's going to determine who the loser of this series is going to be playing for another spot as well.
Right. I'm very curious about the top side of the map when it comes to Limo, Censored versus Mabud and Mordio, because Mordio has a very interesting playstyle, to say the least. He has a lot of early presence. He plays both gank heavy and farm heavy at the same time. Mabud is someone who has been kind of this champion ocean, but more specifically towards bruisers. I kind of want to call him my bruiser, because he really does hinge towards those beefy boys when he plays up there. And going against Censored is someone who holds his own quite well playing from behind, and he's quite fiery when he is able to get a lead and start carrying some of these games.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a bit of dichotomy. I think Mabud is somebody who can absorb resources early and play champions that tend to play towards that. Things like Darius pop up in the back end, but also things like Gangplank. Whereas on the other side, Censored has played things like Set, that has been a lane neutralizer, Tom Kench, that has been a lane neutralizer. powerful effects inside of the fighting phase, and that's a comfort place for Censored, where again, when they play for the pure 5-on-5, that's what they're going to be going for. And then I think a mid lane is a different dichotomy, where both these mid laners have played very different things, where Enigma is the far more safe one, who's playing control mages as best as possible to scale into those fights alongside the MFX, whereas Ivana really heavy playmakers, things that can go off in the right situation.
Speaking of playmakers, Winthrop University going to lock in their jungle, grabbing the Lee Sin as well as the Caitlyn on their first rotation, first pick win over to Dare Gaming. We're going to grab the Jinx, no surprise there. BMFX is a stud when he does grab that champion, hovering the J4 for the time.
Is. And you love this from Dare, I think. Like, this seems to be a bread and butter champion. Limo is both good at this, and it also plays into this aspect of their game plan, which of course comes down to team fighting, right? You get a big AoE ultimate, you get to trap some people inside, and you get a pretty nice little barrel to shoot into. All those fish get trapped in a nice, easy place for that Jinx rocket to really start to put in the damage. This was on display in their previous series when they were able to take the win up against Supernova. They actually had this exact pairing in their first game, which was a really good pairing for the later stages. Helped out for BMFX, who was struggling at the beginning of that game, come back over the course of everything to be able to really throw and throttle his damage throughout everybody.
And in that game, Enigma being on the Azir there just played as a facilitator to keep BMFX alive. And that really did enable them to be able to take that entire thing. So you should see shades of that. Syndra, not too far off from that. You still have a lot of control you can bring and a lot of pick you can bring by locking this one in. One more pick to go over on Winthrop's side.
Yeah, Enigma, again, just playing for more of a controlling type laning phase, being able to be somebody that can contribute in team fights and also really safe type gameplay. On the other side, Ivano being set up potentially for the opportunity to attack this Syndra. This early laning phase is one that Enigma, I think, has to really push for control, because if you don't gain it very early, then eventually what's going to happen is the Echo is going to have better wave clear, it's going to have better side laning, it's going to have a really good gank potential, and it's team fighting. The threat that you have into squishy members is going to rise exponentially as the game continues. That's why Ivano, again, he's on these playmaking type champions. The Vex needed to be removed from the pool as fast as possible. I'm surprised we didn't get that one in the earlier ban phases, because he's gone crazy on that, but this fulfills a very similar role. Not exactly the same, because the ultimate is different compared to the E and the dive potential. You might need more summoner spells, but effectively it's going to be the same thing, just with a laning phase that's better against the level 6 Syndra.
And Ivano's been fulfilling a very interesting role so far on Winthrop, because in the open qualifiers, he did struggle quite a bit. But the one thing that came out from Winthrop is their ability to play around that, especially Mordio playing around that. When we saw their game against Immortals AoE, it was Ivano getting the 1v1 against Shochi, and Mordio instantly setting up a tent into that lane and chaining kill after kill after kill. So we'll see if he's able to still bring a very solid performance, how Mordio plays around that. He is on a champion that can do that type of framework anyway.
I think we figured out for the side of Winthrop, at the very beginning of the tournament, they were operating around playing through Mordio as much as possible, just trying to help him out. And it cost Ivano a bit of laning phase, Melbud a bit of laning phase, and of course with the substitute supports, they weren't really able to accomplish much and being able to come to a full win condition. Recently, it seems like they've adapted a bit more towards playing to Ivano to make sure that he doesn't just get buried in an avalanche of play to begin with. And keeping Ivano relevant, typically Mabud's going to be fine, and Vex is going to be great on the bottom side. Combine that with Kenji, who's a great roaming support, a veteran voice on the squad to help out with a lot of the shot calling, especially on champions like Thresh or the Rakan, which has been great throughout the entirety of the tournament. All of a sudden you start playing through Ivano, and then your team fight starts to look a lot better because you have a very well-farmed AD and a very well-farmed top laner.
So the bot lane now revealed from Winthrop. Going to save that counter pick over for the top. Potential flex available for Winthrop if they choose to go for it. Dare Gaming now have their picks to go for. So far, the Jinx, J4, and Syndra locked in. You got a lot of pick, you got a lot of power that can spike quite early. Let's see how they plan to embellish that a little bit more. A couple more seconds left on the clock for this pick, and they're going to go for the support, locking in the Nautilus.
The Blossoms actually has only really played Enchanters through the majority of this tournament. Thresh was the one exception, which got played during the course of the group stages so far. So this is actually a little bit of a different look. It still fits this Vanguard team fighting style that you might expect him to go for, but it isn't the comfort that we've seen on Blossoms nearly as much as the remainder of the games. He's actually one of the lowest death and highest assist supports in the entire tournament because of a lot of the ability to abuse this Enchanter play. So this is a new little look with the Jinx and the Nautilus combination on the bottom side, and as we know, it is of course the Tahm Kench, something neutralizing for Censored. It's a question of, what does Mabud have for the top lane? I know he went crazy on a Camille, which is available here if you would like it, but again, trying to put a bunch of aggression into a Tahm Kench without support is going to be hard, so they go to something a bit more blanket. They go to a Gwen, harder to aggress against it, and scales immensely for team fights.
Yeah, so the Gwen going to be locked in over on the side for Mabud. He's not going to go as bruisery as I was hoping. You know, we talked about it the last time that I wanted a Mundo to eventually be picked. Mabud was supposed to be the guy to do it. Not going to be the case here, but now we do have the teams locked in as a whole. And any first impressions, seeing as the way the early game should be phasing out? Because I do feel like it's definitely one of the more important parts for Winthrop specifically.
So standard play here, I'm actually looking at like top lane should be something that's helpful for like Tom Kent should be fine in the top side. Mid lane is something that Syndra should be able to abuse. I want to expect Limo to actually help play towards Enigma to begin with to make sure that the Echo never really gets off the initial footing of being down as like a melee champion into a ranged champion prior to level 6 when that ultimate interaction goes in his favor. And then bottom lane, Jinx is actually good into Caitlyn most of the time because she just has better wave clear. And now a Nautilus also is a little bit harder. It's a champion that you have to catch up by pretty significant surprise by a Rakan in order to really get going. This to me feels like Mordio has to be active, which is against what we've really seen the grain of Mordio. He's played the Graves, he's played even like the Karthus as like a scaler, somebody who kind of is more about controlling some of the action rather than kind of forcing a bunch of his will upon the map. Maybe this is a different look from Winthrop, understanding they need to take a bit more action in the early game to shut down the team fight from there.
And they do have a lot of ability with the composition they've gone so far, having that Lee Sin, of course, when you can roam out the Rakan. Looking over on their side, I love the engage potential that you have over here, both with the Tahm Kench, the Nautilus, the J4. You can really get into those fights and also really defend what you need to. There's a lot of flexibility in the way you want to play this comp into Winthrop.
There really is. I also like the fact that, like, Censored, it could become a tank so tanky that there's not really a good way for Winthrop to handle it, right? Caitlyn isn't the best suited for bringing down tanks. Echo's really not suited for bringing down tanks. I guess one of your better options is that Gwen will help bridge some of the additional damage. It also, again, it plays into if Mordio wants to get active, top lane seems like another area where, like, you can try to punish a Tahm Kench in the earlier lane and get your Gwen going as fast as possible. But yeah, this is stock standard from there. This is exactly what we expected them to do. My one question is disengage. You've got a Nautilus, you've got a Syndra, you've got good ways, even like the Tahm Kench ultimate are all ways to shut down members like Ivano from diving into your team. So I feel like Dare is just a really well-rounded composition. It's going to require Winthrop to come up with something creative to really attack this and try to drive any semblance of a win condition into their favor.
And as said earlier, Dare is a team that can play from behind. They're always looking for opportunities to come back. So it's not just about getting that momentum for Winthrop. It's about keeping it forward, keeping it pressured, making sure that Dare doesn't pick up any tempo where they can actually influence the map, get some macro. Like we're seeing with the Fruit for Thought, I keep referencing that again, but the talk about the play around Baron, about Dare just forcing that and forcing you to play into their hands. That is the style Dare likes to do, and Winthrop have to be careful about not walking into that trap.
To me, Winthrop is going to get tested on their ability to communicate properly, especially within a team fight, right? When you got this standard of a team fight and you got this many ways to engage, you really need to connect your pieces very quickly in tandem. You need a Dragon's Rage kick, you need a bubble from the Echo, and you need a Rakan all on top of each other, one after the other after the other. Even second or 2 seconds of time between those abilities, and there's a disengage coming out. There is a denial from the rest of the team, and the more these tools that get burned to start with, the harder that the fight is going to be to play out from the side of Winthrop unless you've got a significant gold advantage. So to me, I feel like this is a lot on Kenji. Kenji is one of the more veteran members. I mentioned that he just came back and was like scrimming with the team a little bit more recently. I have high expectations of Kenji in this game. If he can live up to them, there's a lot of potential for Winthrop to find an attack. But if it's not for that, if Kenji can't really make sure his team is all on exactly the same page, there might be some struggles here from the Winthrop camp.
All right, ready to hit the Rift now. First game of the day now underway. Winthrop University taking on Dare Gaming. Both these teams looking to hit the Rift. Again, winner of this one will go to the bracket stage. Loser of this faces off against Immortals. My God, I keep forgetting who's the second one in there. It's going to be Supernova.
Yeah. That Supernova series was so intriguing to me just because of how close it was with Dare. It felt like Supernova honestly was in the driver's seat of that first game so heavily. To just get completely flopped was a little bit disheartening. Almost to the point where it's like, okay, Dare feel like they can come back from anything, because just having rewatched it, I was like almost emotional. I was like, oh my goodness, how did Supernova lose this? Dare really did very good, not getting punished and just bleeding out a ton. A lot of teams have problems, especially especially newer teams, have problems where you start giving up a little bit, and that just leads to like an avalanche. It's just like a snowball effect of like falling down. You give one objective, you challenge too hard for the next one because you lean into it, then you lose that one, and all of a sudden the entire map spirals out of control. Their gaming never really had that moment. They had their, they're a lot calmer, a lot more collected about what they were doing on the map to make sure that they were never really in a position where they were going to lose like 4 members and have that snowball into a Baron or anything like that. They just kept themselves composed until they got to the part of the game they felt comfortable in.
And this definitely makes me excited to see this current matchup and how they are looking to play this one. Over with the Supernova one, it definitely felt like a lot of that early plan was to focus down BMFX, was to just take him down, kill after kill. They really did punish him, but both Enigma and Blossoms were excellent at defending him when they needed to get into those team fights. And still being on champions that can provide that level of defense to keep BMFX, to let him have that level of agency where he can be impactful in these later game team fights. Jinx is the perfect champion for it.
And when I walked into this series, I was also had very split expectations on what Winthrop was going to do. On one hand, you can try to play towards Vex really heavily, and you could try to shut down BMFX. That's what Supernova tried to do, and it still didn't work because they were able to get him the peel, and as long as he's got a bit of gold in his pocket, he can still carry. The other aspect of this is set up Mabud and Ivano for success, which is what worked for you when you were able to take the upset victory against IMT, right? Like, that's just how Winthrop was able to work. Mabud did quite a bit of carrying, Ivano helped bridge the gap, and then Mordio, Vex, Kenji, they were all contributing, but those two solo laners really had quite a bit of an impact, and I was hoping that Winthrop might jump into a game like this and say, okay, maybe that's our game plan. Maybe we want to play to topside a little bit more, and I'm hoping Mordio catches on to that. He's got this aggressive champion to work with. Maybe he'll play a bit more towards this topside, and they'll try to play through, the carrier, like, AP champions here between the Gwen and the Echo.
First recall coming out of my bud. Not playing towards it, at least just yet. So the recall does come in. It is a bit of a throwback for my bud. Just keeping in mind that this was the first roster he was ever part of over on Dare Gaming. Earn a full ride scholarship. And seeing now the reason why he hopped over to Winthrop.
We know what it's all about for Mibud, man. He's earned it too. This was crazy because like when I saw this guy kind of enter in the fall split, Hybrids was such an interesting and experienced veteran. I felt it was going to be near impossible to full replace him. And this roster has looked like, honestly, Mibud has been a pretty decent replacement for Hybrids, if not just a full replacement for that player already. So props to Mibud, who's been able to impress me after a long time watching Hybrids. Ivano dodging out on that gank again. The early game, it's not super aggressive. Limo doesn't have to force that one or anything. It's just a little bit of poking damage to help out Enigma's laning phase. He's got a pretty decent health lead right now, and it's going to be difficult for Ivano to really find a solid back timer here.
Well, back into the top lane. I remember when we were talking about at least UPL top laners for the fall on who is the most pro tag top laner, Anime Girl over on Immortals AoE or my bud here on Winthrop.
That was a nice conversation you and I had. Censored wasn't really a part of that conversation because Censored was probably the second after Anime Girl, and he's done a good job. I think he's punched well above his weight when it's coming to especially the team fighting aspects of things. But you're right, Mabud has felt like a main character for Winthrop, which has been rather nice because he's been a lot of carries. There have been a couple of top laners who've actually shocked me with their propensity to play some of the more heavy carry options. This was a tournament where like you walk in and you're like, okay, if you play tanks or something like that, you could probably just sandbag lanes and let a powerful bot side win. But some top laners have been like, nope, I'm gonna win the game. And Mabud has definitely been one of those where he's been able to put the team on his back a couple of times.
I think we have seen other teams at least try and cripple that lane by focusing it down in the draft, where they're saving their counter pick for it, or just setting up a 10 up there and camping them over and over. That's the times where we have at least seen my bud falter. But again, it's something really hard. It's something that's really hard to get past when it comes to amateur play. Understanding how to react when teams start camping you and they start focusing you down.
Keeping stock of everything right now. We love that little Jinx animation with the train. Things to note. Number one, when it comes to controlling team fighting around the Baron, it's an idea of both Dare being able to force people to fight into the Baron pit, and it's an idea of, okay, how does Winthrop attack that? Winthrop, I think, are comfortable fighting into limited space, right? When you're around a Baron pit, you've got a Recon, you've got an Echo to shut out a lot. When you pinch a bunch of people together and you put Matt Bud into that situation, that ultimate all of a sudden looks really nice as well, so that's helpful. And if Winthrop Winthrop can also pull for Baron, or for Dragons, my apologies. It gives himself a secondary win condition where like they could try to set up the fight on their terms around the Dragon. You definitely don't want to give that option to Dare, because again, when it came to Baron, they set up around Baron all the time for fights. So again and again, you don't want to give them a second way to set up their team fight if they've got it. Instead, they're going to use the power of this Vex and this this Recon. They pushed out the bottom side off the back of the MFX, and they're going to snag the first Dragon. It's a really good play. I want to see them try to get Vex a good back here, because it could be problematic if they get shoved back in by the Jinx and the Nautilus, especially for like a Rift Herald timer here. Part of me wants to see Mordio stick around on the bottom side of the map, maybe make a play happen into BMFX and Blossom. Even if it gets nothing, all you need to do is help correct that wave so that Vex and Kenji can respond to a Rift Herald shift if that were to come through.
Pretty solid right there. Faster to the punch. Timing where Blossoms takes his recall, grabbing it right there. He's not able to get there in time. Priority going over to Winthrop, but now the response from Dare Gaming is going to be attempted gank over on this bot side. They're able to get the hook onto Kenji, but not in the area in time. Actually able to show up as the flag and direct goes off onto Kenji, knocks him down to about half health, but he's got mobility in his kit. He's able to slide on out.
Yeah, it's a good play from Limo, because he's doing the exact opposite of what I had suggested from Winthrop, where Mordio should have hovered on the bottom side to make sure either A, they can help correct their wave, or B, they can prevent something like this from happening if Limo happened to match their pathing. I don't know that they were tracking him or had information on where he was going to be until right now, where Mordio knows on the bottom side of the map there he is. They know how much CS he's got, so he comes up to punish by stealing the buff on the other side of the map. This is big for Mordio. So now, Censor's going to step into this. Echo actually has the potential to roam too. Mordio doesn't feel comfortable, though. He's just going to bounce from this as much and just walk away, hoping to have snagged that without any interaction, especially with his top laner not there. They really just don't want a full collapse coming in from multiple members, because it probably would have ended up having more members there from Dare. But the thought was there from Mordio. I really like the prediction of being like, okay, because he was on bottom side, I'm going to go try to attack the top side. I think he probably could have smited and stolen that blue buff away if he wanted, but might be saving that cooldown to make sure if a Rift Herald play were to come through, they aren't going to lose that one outright.
Yeah, and there's the potential for it right now, given that Limo's on this blue side of the map now, walking over towards the Rift Herald. Mordio waiting, just doing the leash for the time being, as Ivano waits in the brush, does have some vision, spots out where Enigma is. Kenji roams over as well. They are getting their bottom lane over towards the mid lane to try and defend Mordio while he goes for this Rift Herald. And Limo's not going to choose to challenge him right here. Early objectives going Winthrop's way.
Very easily. And this was nice, because again, the bottom wave ended up being corrected and nobody was able to shift fast enough. It seemed like Dare were comfortable just walking into bottom lane a couple more times, and that led to Winthrop backing their bot lane and then redeploying now into the bottom side of the map. They only gave up the one turret plate so far, and thankfully I think Kenji's going to get back before anything else is lost. So that's a Rift Herald that will guarantee you 2 plates. If you don't lose a second one to the Jinx, you're going to feel very comfortable with how this play kind of led from the side of Winthrop, because you were able to snag that objective off the map as well as the Dragon, and basically for effectively just the plates on bottom side that went to Jinx.
So not much really lost for Winthrop here. Sitting pretty at the early stage of this game, being really focused onto the neutral objectives, able to grab that early Infernal, able to grab the early Rift Herald as well. Still seeing where he looks to pop it. He's been unable to find too much in terms of ganks. It's just been about map pressure from Mordio so far.
For the most part, this is our expectation for this game, right? Like, we had, I think, the other game that went, like, what was it, like 14, 15 minutes without a kill? We were expecting it to maybe even go longer. We might get another iteration of that, Mr. Deserex. I feel almost bad that you're going to be bored for our first game and a second game, potentially, of the day, just because these two teams are teams that are more than willing to say, we'll farm for 25 minutes and then throw everything we have at one another.
I gotta wait a while before the kitchen sink gets thrown out.
Yeah, but then it's not just a kitchen sink; it's like a whole Home Depot department. Like it's the whole kit and caboodle, if you will, just thrown at each other, which will be amazing to hear, probably because you are an incredible caster yourself. But then your voice is going to be destroyed for game 2 because all of it's going to come out at once in one concentrated area. Oh, they're going to break it.
Waiting for over the wall. Enigma having no clue what awaits him. Now getting closer. Here comes the flash, looking for the knockup. There's the Sonic Wave, resonating strike. The whole kitchen sink. Not yet the Home Depot. We still got 10 minutes before that happens, but it's going to result in first blood going over to Winthrop.
We live in the worst timeline for Winthrop, too, because it's the Rakan that snags the kill. I love the setup, right? They're infringing upon the other jungler. They're not letting Limo kind of sit here and control things on his own. And Enigma gets spotted walking in. He's trying to stay out of vision on the bottom side, expecting that to be comfortable. It's a little curious to me because, like that's like Limo's on bottom side, but he's way out of position. You're really not safe on your bottom side of the map when you don't have vision there. Again, the worst timeline of Kenji getting the kill is a little bit miserable unless they buy like tier 2 boots and he starts really roaming because of it. Would have loved to see that kill, especially go on to Ivano, but like either Ivano or Lee Sin would have been preferable, just so that you can get somebody that like has dive threat into a lot of the carries before the laning phase ends, and all of a sudden you can start diving towers.
And with that control, Winthrop can establish more vision control towards the dragon side of the map. We still got a couple seconds before Mountain does spawn. 5 seconds left on the clock, and trying to beat them to the punch is going to be Limo, looking to deny some of that. It's got to win over to Winthrop, so you have some strong vision established. BMFX going to be in the area, so is going to be Blossoms. Looking to jump in the mid lane is Ivano as he puts pressure onto Enigma, but leashing the dragon is going to be Dare. There's sharks in the water, though. You got to be very careful if you're Dare Gaming. Mordio waiting around the wings. Zap going to hit him on the backside. Kenshi just throwing out whatever cues he can, looking for the engagement. Is going to be Ivano as he dives in, able to get the stun on the BMFX, trying to focus him down. Going to use the Chrono Break to avoid a lot of the unleashed power coming through. Now trying to bail. Ivano able to get out. Health too low, though. Super Mega Death Rocket going to find its mark. Mabud will take down Blossoms in the process, and now the screen is looking more and more red as more members of Winthrop are able to stand strong, but BMFX is looking to change that one as he gets a shot onto the back line. Here comes the jump forward, but Limo will punish it with the flag and drag. Mardio can find nothing else as the triple kill goes to Limo. Mabud now on the run, but he's deep behind enemy lines. He dashes forward. The zap will land. Going to use the blast plant, tries to utilize it. Waiting for the flag and drag is going to be Limo. Blossoms and BMFX going to be on the hunt, but they don't want to chance it right now. Going to let Mabud walk away. And a crazy team fight right there, going in favor of Dare Gaming, thanks to BMFX, just playing that carefully.
Yeah, necessary to see exactly how this broke out, but a number of things to track from Winthrop and Dare Gaming side. First things first, Ivano wants to dive and get on top of BMFX, actually finds an incredible E into a stun and gets him nearly half health, but isn't able to escape because of everything else. Now, on the right side of the screen, Mabud actually does a really good amount of damage with the Gwen ultimate through the majority of this team to drop a fair amount to this. This was looking really rough for Dare once one member went down. You can see right here, I thought things were going to break loose. I want to see how Vex went down, because Vex got driven out with just a couple of rockets and a bit of damage from Limo, and unfortunately no vision meant that Vex just did not realize Limo and BMFX were there to punish him further, and that kind of prevented the Caitlyn from accomplishing as much as I think he would have wanted during the course of that fight. The dive was there, the ultimates were decently used, but Winthrop, again, their pieces weren't all used collectively in one cohesive manner, which kind of cost them a bit against Dare. Dare's team fighting has never been a question as to whether it's good or not. Winthrop has to step up to the plate in situations like that. Fortunately, it doesn't cost them the Dragon to get the second one in their pocket.
And this was talked about a little bit in the pregame. Enigma and Blossoms being very good at facilitating some level of agency over to BMFX, being able to support him, keep him alive. One of the things I saw was Vex putting out an ace in the hole, and Enigma just casually blocks it. Stuff like that could have made or broke that fight for Dare Gaming, but all these small players coming out from Blossoms, coming out from Enigma, it's working out so far, and Dare Gaming sitting in a pretty decent spot, nothing too game-breaking just yet, but now Winthrop are looking to change that. Sonic Wave goes out, lands on the BMFX, and now they're just going to go straight for the dive, but Mordio can't finish the job. Ivano is now here. You'll be able to jump in, but it's going to be a 1-for-1 exchange so far. Now 1-for-2. Here's the tower. Chrono Break goes out. Ivano able to get out just in time before the flag and drag finds the knock up under the tower. He walks away. The damage is coming in. A couple more autos coming out from Vex. Limo stuck underneath. This is very tough here, but health bars are a little bit low. Kenji does have a full health bar to work with here, so they're going to go for the exchange. They're going to go for the trade, and they're going to get dunked in the process. Vex goes down, and Limo makes it all for not able to get a kill. Gets shut down in the process. That shutdown's going to Kenji, though. Limo made the best of it, and here comes the Death Rocket. Just slides past the backside of Winthrop.
Goodness gracious. Things aren't quite done yet because Censored is there, although I think everybody gets out clean and safe. Dare started to throw some resources into the bottom side to make sure that BMFX isn't just as comfortable as they want to be, as well as trying to get some into Vex. Also, just simultaneously, while all of this is going on, notice top lane tower goes down because Mabud just gets free pushing time. That's first tower of the game for your Gwen. Gwen, underappreciated team fighting strength that's going to be usable into Dare, that they are going to have to keep track of. Mabud is put into a position to potentially carry, while while they're actually attacking the other side of the map. Winthrop now looking like they're forcing in the right places of the map. You want to make sure Jinx is going to be able to pull too much gold. They take it out very quickly. I do think there was a bit of a slip up. Mordio had pressed ultimate right before his Q ended up expiring, and that meant that he couldn't execute the Jinx as fast as they would have wanted to. Maybe something like that could have actually cost a little bit of time that could have been used, but it's not that impactful. I think Winthrop's comfortable with everything that happened in that situation.
Now I'm seeing a lack of synergy, at least on the bot side, for Winthrop. I've been complimenting it so much on the side of Dare Gaming. BMFX and Blossoms are great at pairing together, are great at defending each other, are great at getting kills. Vex and Kenji, though, it's definitely not a reflection. Some of those later exchanges where you saw the flag and drag from Limo knock up both Vex and Kenji, there should be some level of organization there to make sure that's not going to hit two people when you set up that dive.
They've been together for a relatively short amount of time, combined with the fact that they're both veterans, and so when it comes to communication, it's probably not the easiest thing in the world for those two specifically to talk between one another, which is just an interesting dynamic. Over time, maybe that changes, but especially with all of the scrim time that was given over to Grim to make sure that their backup ADC was actually ready for support because Kenji was gone for so long, maybe that had something to do with it. I'm not going to attribute it to that because, again, they're two veteran players that both know how to play the bottom lane. Hopefully their lack of synergy is just a bit of miscommunication in the earlier parts of this game. But again, I just want to point out the fact that there is a nuclear bomb incoming in the form of Mabud, who is now taking down two side lane towers just of his own volition, and even mid tower gets brought down.
A great Dragon's Rage coming out of Mordio. It's going to set up a potential kill right here. Doesn't come through, and now the retaliation coming out of Dare Gaming as they come in with the Cataclysm. Limo looking good, able to hop away. It's going to be Kenji, but the rest of his squad gets decimated, and the last tick takes down Kenji as well. Now, my bud, as strong as he is, I don't think he wants to take on 5 members unless Censored stays there all by his lonesome. Able to bring some interference is going to be Ivano. Buy some time for my bud. Going to be able to take one down. First one to fall is going to be Blossoms. Health bar still high on both Ivano and my bud. Ivano able to get out. Ivano with the play gets the triple kill in the face of Dare. What a play from Ivano.
You can see just how collectively that this Dare Gaming roster is able to strike. They bring all 5 members. The tower is going down. Bottom lane had already been taken. They knew that top side there was an echo there, and they collapsed so quickly for a 5-on-5. You can see all 5 members are going to be here before even, I think, a 4th member shows up on the side of Winthrop. They stalled this pretty well. Watch Vex, the flash into the E, gets him out of the Cataclysm to force him back, and Kenji draws a little bit of fire, and it pulls everyone into this choke point where Mabud just gets to rip them apart with the needlework, stalling for time for Ivano. These two disruptors, the solo laners, are the difference makers, as we had highlighted just a bit ago. Which of the Echo, with all these disengaged tools getting burnt, not finding the kill outright onto Ivano. He gets to continue to dive and dive and dive alongside Mabud. Their health bars were perfect for the majority of this, just tanked at the last second, able to sneak out somehow. But even if he goes down, Mabud cleans up that fight, and it's still positive for Winthrop. Their solo laners needed to show up. I knew it was going to be the case, and they are doing so today.
That final Echo Q was beautiful, man. The return on it, grabbing the bot lane of Dare Gaming. Ivano has something to say in this match as Winthrop are going to take a 5K lead 19 minutes into this game. It's a good start for them so far, but now the rotation is around Dragon. It's going to be Dare getting the first foot in.
Again, these two, both of them have said that they want to earn role-rated scholarships, and they're earning them right now, even though this isn't necessarily competitive in terms of collegiate. 2 Dragons in their back pocket to fight.
Ooh, Mordio goes deep, goes low immediately after going in, but look at the flank, my bud, right on the flank of Dare, and now the pitch comes out. Mabud tears them apart. He's looking for more. Limo will fall as well, and Winthrop are in the driver's seat, baby, as they take the 3rd Drake in a commanding lead of this game number 1.
Mavado, I think he's just going to walk away. It's a Tom Kench. That's Enigma who's going to be able to have it. He has ultimate. They're not too threatened as Kenji's going to help him out a little bit, but I think they're just going to walk away. How about Mabud scissor hands on the backside of that fight? They completely forgot about him during the laning phase. They have given up. It is a neutralizing pick, the Tom Kench, right? But if you walk into a team fight and you get ripped apart by one champion, you have no response. There is no team fight from Dare Gaming, and 2-3 times now Mabud has been able to show that off. You see the total damage on the left side. You're seeing just how much that this Gwen is able to accomplish, and they have nothing to do. They have no way to shut it down. That W, when it goes down, if you're outside the range of Enigma, if you're outside the range of Blossoms, or if they're outside the circle, there is nothing to stop her from just killing everyone.
My bud is a beast right now, man. He is popping off in this game. He was left completely unchecked, got the last pick of the game, and he's been running this as competently as he can, as dominantly as he can. He is now going to head over towards that bot lane, cashing in on all those turrets he got early. He's now going to cash in on those team fights, cash in on that split push, cash in on that presence that Winthrop is going to demand on this map as they start setting up around the dragon, around the Baron area.
And even better now, also, you talk about, the combination of Gwen with somebody else. Gwen, one of the best flanking champions in the game. If you get her into the right position, she can win an entire team 5-on-5. If you put too much attention towards Mabud on this Gwen, just trying to make sure that she's peeled off, that there's no interaction against her for your team, you now threaten Ivano, who is on a 12-stack Magi's and probably has Lichbane with Proto Rocket Belt soon enough. That's an assassination onto Enigma or BMFX. And if you look at this team, there's 2 really big damage dealers and then a 3rd damage dealer kind of in Limo, who's got like the Gore Drinker, but the damage is going to fall off from this point on. So if either Enigma or BMFX get eliminated from a fight by just Ivano's ability on Echo alone, the fight looks lost. Even without ultimates, like things just fall to pieces if you don't want to have, especially BMFX, in the course of a team fight. And that is a perfect situation. Ivano played this perfectly as a Vex, and I want to see him do it masterfully on an Echo as well, because this is a legitimate threat now that Dare is going to have to respond to.
All right, Winthrop, lots of control over towards this blue buff side of Dare's jungle. Now you're going to have Ivano coming out, looking to put pressure onto Enigma. He's just going to go for the straight 1v1. Only the Hourglass able to keep him alive. Stopwatch even at that point. That is how much threat Ivano brings to the map, Rebel.
It truly does. Didn't have the flash readily available, because if you would have flash and rocket belted before that happened, that combo kills immediately against Enigma, and there is no response to it at all because the E just was not there, able to shut him back from the tower. And now also with the stopwatch gone, you have to wait for the full zone use to get completed, but that's a little more damage that you have to kind of dip away from. As Blossoms
engage, Blossoms with the engage all the way on the back line. It's knocking him out for too much though. The counter engage good from Dare Gaming. Now Mabud gonna take the duel against Censored, chipping away at his health. It is so easy for him, gets devoured in the process.
Where you going?
As he's still going to be able to take him down. It doesn't really matter. It's just all for naught right there, delaying the inevitable. But looking overall, Winthrop losing Kenji in that mid lane fight. It's going to be a 1-for-1 exchange.
Apologies. I think I had called out Blossoms for that engage when it was actually Kenji who had made the engage on Rakan. That's just how much Blossoms played him. Mordion yet, though, he is poking away at this team, being an absolute nuisance.
I just realized he baited me into saying it as well.
I know, it was my bad completely. Because, like I say, he's played it twice in this tournament. He's all enchanters, and then Kenji's the one making the big engage. He's done it so many times. That's what we expect from Blossom, but it was Kenji who made this really aggressive move. It's set up with Ivano. They couldn't quite find the assassination that they wanted, and the big thing was I think Censored was also able to deny Mabud from running up and really turning that into a full 5-on-5 that they wanted. But now you can see side lane has gone to pieces. I mean, Mabud is looking too strong to respond to from even the Tom Kench, which is that's a rough situation to find yourself in, where now you have losing side lanes between Ivano nearly solo killing the Syndra and Mabud literally solo killing Censored in your side lanes. Plus, if these connect on team fights, everything goes awry for the side of Dare.
Looking for the collapse onto Ivano. He did have the chrono break, so was able to get back over the wall. No real danger, though. Given the state of the game, 24 minutes in, about a 10k lead going over to Winthrop, Dare Gaming can still be dangerous. Dare Gaming can still bring something. This is what we saw in that game number 1 versus Supernova, where they pretty much floundered for the entirety of it, found one team fight and took a victory off that one. Winthrop can't disrespect that, because we still see that they are bringing fights if they have the opportunity to. Few opportunities left in there, though. Winthrop keep putting the pressure as they surround Dare Gaming, looking for any misstep to find an engage.
Importantly, keep your eye on Winthrop, where like the bottom and the top lane are both pushed in because they're preparing side waves for some of the win conditions like Baron and like the Dragon. They're going to pick up the Soul here. And what's important about this is that the composition specifically, they do a lot worse when their ultimates accomplish nothing, right? So this is going to be big because it helps you, set up these ultimates with the movement speed. It's not quite like the ultimate cooldown reduction like it was before. Kenji having to run away from Nemo. But I mean, they try to pull this Baron play. This is what they're kind of famous for. They understand it's getting taken at the same time. But now with this movement speed, it's going to help Kenji get in position for ultimates. It's going to help for like Ivano and Mabud to situate themselves into a great place in the backline. All of a sudden, Winthrop looks more scary with this Cloud Break, and they're the ones starting up the Baron. And Kenji's got an amazing flank angle.
Kenji on the flank is able to find it, gets the knockups. Here comes the Cataclysm, able to create some room, able to create some zone, but it's too far, too late, because Mordio and Ivano have gone deep. A triple kill, and all of Dare Gaming falls straight to the crowd, straight to the respawn, as Winthrop take this game and smash Dare Gaming's face into it. They're going to grab the Baron.
Where did they go, Tesseract? They just disappeared off the map. You can see, again, the Baron setups there. Dare is like, they want this 5-on-5. That's all that they set up for. Winthrop, once they take the Dragon, they're able to move into the river. They've got the vision. They've got the flank angle from Kenji. And there's no vision here, really, to move back to. They just had to walk away, or they had to really group together all in one kind of very, very specific place. Enigma still didn't catch Kenji. And I want to see what happened, because, again, this team eviscerated, but Winthrop playing exactly as I wanted them to. Look how quickly they put together all of the pieces of this composition. Everybody in one tandem movement go in all over the place. 2 divers onto Enigma in the backline. BMFX died on the initial engagement. The hilarious trap that ends up executing Limo that I didn't even notice. That was the reason he stopped in place. Everybody was dead within like 5 seconds, Eric. I just like, that's exactly what Winthrop needed to be doing. It was so shocking. This is a team that lost to Dare earlier in the tournament, but you can see their composition. They knew how to play it from minute 1, and they've been playing it to perfection.
Oh, and here comes that little Fnatic bait push. They're going to find Kenji, be able to take him down. It's going to be 1 member down. It's a little bit of a relief on the pressure, but there's nothing they can really grab. There's nothing they can really do on the map with this reprieve.
Not at all. And especially when you're able to run like 1-3-1 situations, your 3 lane might be weak, or your 2 lane might be weak, depending, because right now they're running like a weird 1-2-2 type situation. But again, Ivano requires 2 members in order to shove him off, right? Now, the same kind of applies to Mabud at minimum. It might actually require 3 full members to prevent Mabud from pushing pretty much anything across the map. And so losing a member like that, it's painful. He has all your vision, but it ends up not meaning all that much.
Here comes the Cataclysm going right after Limo. Limo, bad choice to go for the engage there. He is going to fall. Mordio takes him down, and now the rest of Winthrop looking to dive deep as they take member after member. The rest of Dare, the only thing that really remains there is going to be Enigma. Ace in the hole's not even going to land by the time he goes down. Dead before that bullet lands. It's a double kill going over to Ivano, and it's a base in shambles for Dare Gaming. Game number 1 with authority belongs to Winthrop University.
What an incredible setup here from Winthrop University. To me, again, this composition was very well-rounded, and it was exactly the way that Dare wanted to play the game, but they gave up their solo lanes way too quickly. Ivano had some nice roams and things in the beginning of the game, but Mabud, for the most part, just generated an advantage in the one-on-one with the tower takes and things like that, and won team fights in the mid-game for his team. If things had gone a little bit differently, and they had put a bit of resource, made sure the Tahm Kench was able to keep the Gwen under wraps for the most part, that game might have looked a lot different in terms of the team fights, but just because the Gwen popped off and started going crazy, finding assassinations, you snowball that into Gwen and Echo both being able to assassinate on the back line. And again, to me, it was the calls from Winthrop being able to put all of the pieces of their ultimates together in one fell swoop to prevent the other team from having like this elongated fight that Dare has been known for over time. Props to Winthrop changing up the play style they had in open qualifiers and coming out with a vicious game number 1.
Yeah, I had my worries when I saw Vex and Kenji falling a little bit too early, having their missteps there, but it was just thrown away right away when Ivano and Mordio decided to, not even Ivano, Mordio, you got to keep including Mabud after I saw that Gwen. It's kind of easy to forget about him because he was on the island just getting his kills here and there, taking towers here and there, but when he made his presence felt, he definitely made his presence felt. The big one out of that pops out to me is Ivana. He's been performing so much better than what we saw in the open qualifiers. This is the Ivano we were hoping to see, and this is the Ivano that's really helping Winthrop boom so much, be this underdog, be this dark horse in this tournament thus far. It's definitely a joy to see as Winthrop take game number 1.
Yeah, it's been great. I think Ivana, when I casted the first game of Open Qualifiers for Glaive Esports, which is who they actually lost to in the first round, he got low-key clowned in the side lanes on a Jace pick. It was really tough to watch because we knew how strong that Ivana was. But in games like this, where he's able to step up, he's been able to kind of come up to the plate much better. You can see the impact he's got. He out-damaged, even though he is a melee champion against the Syndra. You could see the kind of difference that Mabud made in that game, nearly doubling the damage of pretty much anybody on the side of Dare. Just incredible stuff. I love that Winthrop was able to play through their solo laners a lot more and didn't have to worry about bottom side. Vex is an absolute sponge and was never going to break. He's been don't break type bot laner, and it makes it difficult to try to set BMFX up for success. It's a question now of game 2. Dare, balls in their court. Are you going to try to get Enigma? Are you going to try to get censored into winning situations? Or are you going to double down and really try to force into BMFX and force Vex into a bad position, something he hasn't done for a very long time?
Well, we're going to have to see as we get ready for game number 2. But before we head out, we got to give a quick thank you to one of our sponsors, and that's going to be Skulls. Are you looking to upgrade your gamer gear? Look no further. Start your 2022 off right with official unified esports merchandise brought to you by Skulls. Hoodies, joggers, jerseys, armbands, and a lot more coming soon. You have the skill, now get the swag. Skulls.com/collections/unified has everything you need. Gear up, game on, Skulls. We're going to throw it to a quick break. When we return, we'll continue this series of Dare Gaming versus Winthrop University.
feel like last year it was really obvious that I was the best mid laner in Academy. This year I'm looking to do the same thing.
Winthrop taking a lot of damage. He's gonna get picked. Shockwave on the 3. The combo from the Thieves. Team Liquid, and that's it. That's the game. That's the series. That is Proving Ground.
What helps people improve is not being afraid to take risks or kind of push a lane to the limits.
Getting low, but he can look for another one. He does get himself stunned, but again, the healing is just so massive. Misses Secudo. Safeguard is back on.
What?
He finds it with a Tempest. That's on! The man is going to try and 1v3. Here comes Joey. 1v4. Oh, we find Secudo.
Harry, congratulations. Hey, I see everybody behind. Oh, the double stun. Flash from Tenacity.
Oh, no.
He'll get the kill. Oh, no! Why did you charge the turret? Oh! Just force them in. Tenacity with a 5-man ultimate. The Rockets, the resets. Tenacity with the triple kill.
Oh my God.
Your son catches Spawn in the middle of the dark passage. What a shutdown from TSM. Are they going to give him a pentakill on Sejuani to kick off Proving Grounds? I think they are. Pentakill to our man.
Welcome back, everyone, to the LCS Proving Ground Circuit Qualifiers. This matchup between Dare Gaming and Winthrop University. Game 1 already done. Winthrop able to take it. They're continuing that momentum, Rebel. They are hungry.
They really are. It's been phenomenal to see their transition from just like the beginning of open qualifiers where you saw them, fall to a team that didn't even end up qualifying for the group stage to now they're in a position where they're only one game out from qualifying to that playoff spot, from getting back to a place in which Winthrop could be considered not just a top seedable team, but also just a top team in amateur all together, which is an exciting prospect for them.
So as we head into this game number 2, we got to ask ourselves, what's going to change out of Dare? At least in terms of their draft. Last time going with the Jinx, J4, Syndra, Nautilus, Tom Kench. We did see a situation where if BMFX could not have his pop-off moment, if they were able to get to the backline, they had a lot of divers who could get back there. It was pretty much a non-game for Winthrop.
Yeah, it's a situation where, Dare is in a position where they had enough peel in some situations where an even team fight or enough of something could have potentially dissuaded the divers from just jumping in freely. It would require a lot better kind of play, more like that final fight had played out for Winthrop, rather than some of the others where it was just Mabud kind of ripping through everybody. But I think specifically they need something to play around very quickly inside of the game. Stronger solo lanes will suit them very nicely, but also just in general, they need somewhere to go, because it seemed like Limo has aggression, but rather than just going to pure 5-on-5 time and time and time again, they need a weapon in the earlier stage of the game. If it is Limo, that's fine. If it's another lane, set up a lane that you can go back to again and again to give yourself something to attack with on the map, rather than just necessarily, always grouping to 5-on-5 and hoping that that's going to be enough to win.
And I was at least expecting a little something at least a little bit more aggressive from the side of Censored. We have seen him go more the fighter path, especially with his some of his more fiery memes that we saw with the call Twitter video. I don't know if you I showed you that one. If no one else has seen it, please go look at Censored's Twitter, because that is fire. It's pretty much a hype package that uses the call with the Pantheon thing and everything. Leona versus Pantheon, but Dare versus Winthrop. It's some pretty solid stuff.
That it is. For me, at least, I think one of the biggest things that Winthrop has going for right now is actually the solid bot lane that is unfringeable. Over the course of the open qualifier, this has been true that Vex is just it's really hard to get Vex to be somebody that loses in the laning phase. Whether it's he can go down CS, he might go down a kill or two, something like that. He doesn't have the most impact, but he is a brick wall in the bottom side. I actually want to bring this back to you because I talked to you about this a bit before broadcast. I want to take you back to 2017 Challenger Series. If you remember back in that day, back when Team Gate was actually a thing. This was my first ever recorded broadcast ever. Was I was covering those things, practicing a little bit back at that time, and they were the first team I had ever covered because it was the first game of the entire split. And I remember watching. They're a team like Strumpus, about Odd Orange, Alorum, all three of them on that team, and Vex was the big one. To me, Vex was one of the highest performing members on that team, and he was a stonewall back then too. This is a person in BMFX who has jumped into the scene with very limited experience in terms of competitive play, who is playing against somebody who has built up a brick wall for literally 5 years on the bottom side. They are going to need a lot more than a jackhammer in a game like this to try to get through something like that.
I can't help but to love stories like that, Dean. Just seeing the path that we all take, we share very similar roads at the end of the day. But game 2 now ready to go as the draft is now underway. Winthrop University versus Dare Gaming. Banned so far: Hecarim, Corky, Victor removed off the map. Gangplank and Action. I always want to say Rakan for a second, but it's Action. So throw that one more ban to come out from Dare Gaming.
I wonder if they just go for the Gwen ban here to make sure that Mabud's not going to get anything that he can really go crazy on. After that last game, they probably have to be a little bit scared of it. But it's a curiosity. Now that they have red side, of course, they've got the counter pick potentially for Censored on the top side or Enigma in the mid lane. And they've been willing to go they tend to be a little bit more crazy in the mid lane than the top lane. And they really are just terrified of it. They're going to triple ban the top laner here, making sure Mabud's not going to have anything. But now you've given Kenji one of his better champions in the Lulu. He was incredible on this during the open qualifier. I'm assuming that has not changed in the last couple of weeks.
You ban 3 champions, but you still got 150 more to go if you're banning out Mabud. Next lock-in comes in. It's going to be for Dare Gaming. They're going to grab the Jinx. Once again, trying to get BMFX onto that one. And for good reason. He's definitely very proficient at it. You just need to solve the problem that we had from game number 1, which is how do we protect him and how do we get him going?
And now you got like Xin Zhao, so I think this might indicate perhaps a similar attacking thing from Jarvan, hopefully with a bit more a bit more of a mid game spike, I suppose, when it comes to just attacking the other jungler and finding ways in lanes. It also might indicate again an Orianna from Enigma, or even it's difficult to say. You're always going to see a mage. I've been voting mostly for Vel'Koz over the course of the series just because I love the champion, and Enigma's played it twice already. So, but that doesn't seem like a champion that's going to synergize super well with somebody that knocks everybody away. So, more likely to maybe go on the other side. This is another treat. I was actually referencing this just again. The first game, 2017 Challenger Series Team Gate. What champion was it? It was Ezreal. That's what Vex played, and he's shooting back a little bit for me here.
Yeah, but all the throwbacks.
Nice to be able to see that kind of throwback, yeah. He was a brick wall with it then. He's brick wall with it now. The combination of that with the Lulu is pretty mean in the bottom side on its own in terms of poke, but also it allows for a roaming style that Kenji's gone for. If he were on something like Thresh or Bard or Rakan, you would see him all about and about the map. I have to assume that Lulu's going to be a little bit more be able to roam than what you would normally see from an ADC.
Ooh, is that a lock-in? That is a lock-in. Nice. This is something we've been waiting for a while. Mordio, this is one of his bread and butter champions. It's an exciting thing to see his Kha'Zix get locked in. He did play that in the last series as well. So against Immortals AoE, he did get a dub on it, also a loss on it, 1-for-1 each. But he's ready to break it right now. But yeah, this is a very exciting champion to see get locked.
I think he blinded this too at one point during the course of this tournament. That's how confident he is. It's one of his more kind of iconic champions alongside the Karthus jungle, and he loves it into champions like this Xin Zhao that actually play really aggressively into the opposing jungler, because it's hard to find a bunch of one-on-one pressure against the Kha'Zix because of how much kill threat that the champion has when you are isolated, which is what prevents everything from coming through. So that's quite nice. It also, again, it fits into the role of an assassin, which is like, it's no longer Ivano who's going to be doing that. Now it's going to be Mordio who steps into that role, who again, he's shown the proficiency to be a carry for the team. The Graves performance, I remember specifically, was one where he put the team on his back in the mid game to get them to a later stage where they could actually end up taking the full series against the side of IMT, getting into the point where Kenji was able to get that amazing Baron steal. A lot of that was off the back of Mordio being able to help lift the team. So here on a champion that he's going to be comfortable to do that once again.
And just from this draft so far, at least on both sides of the map, this is a very exciting game, just waiting to happen. There's a lot of skirmishing. There's a lot of fighting that's going to go on early, especially when we get the side lane control out of Camille, how that is going to be responded to, the early ganks that come out of Xin Zhao, get excited with Jinx. And then you look at Winthrop side of things, even with the Ezreal able to play safe, get the skill shots from a distance. But more importantly, Mordio on Kha'Zix able to dive deep and get that damage in. He is not shy when he's on that Kha'Zix. He will go for those assassinations.
Yeah, ever since Cyber stepped out of Amateur last year, I've been waiting for another really good Kha'Zix player, and Mordio appears to be stepping into the Kha'Zix role, which is rather nice. The interesting bit of this, actually, from Dare, is that Censored has now gotten onto Camille, a carry-oriented champion. They're going to double ban Mabud, so that's 5 top side bans towards Mabud to make sure that it is and one of the best blind pickable top laners that you've got in the back pocket. However, they've avoided Renekton, which is of interest to me just because, A, gives you a powerful lane to gank for the Kha'Zix. Number 2, it works into pretty well into the Camille. And number 3, it gives frontline to a team with a Lulu that you can, throw onto the Renekton, and an Ezreal who's going to have more than enough space. It doesn't have a ton of CC, it does have the W at very minimum, but to me, that is a champion that can easily go into the hands of a Bud here and potentially ruin this early game from Dare.
All right, Soraka gonna get locked in on the side of Dare now. Blossoms does like going for some of those enchanter supports sometimes during the open qualifiers. He did pull out stuff like the Zillion and the Soraka, so this is not definitely too much out of his wheelhouse, and it will at least provide a lot of sustain to keep BMFX in lane.
That it does. It's also not terrible into Lulu. The Q is pretty long range, so even if you're landing poke, you have to stand still while you're casting the Glitter Lance, and that means, of course, that Soraka is going to be able to drop that. It also is like, if you're standing far enough back positioning properly as Blossoms, there's situations where, like, people get on top of, say Limo goes in, and then all of a sudden a Kha'Zix appears on top of him, right? You throw an E on top of Limo, and all of a sudden Q can't come out, W can't come out, you can't one-tap, you can't jump out if you're Mordio in that situation, and there's a lot of problems to be caused. The issues with it, of course, are that if you aren't good at positioning, there's going to be big problems, especially when you have somebody like a Kha'Zix to kill you, when you have an Ezreal who's going to outrange you, and even a Zoe who's going to be able to basically one-tap your character if you're hit with a bubble or something. Even more interesting, they go into the Shen, which is, that's a Maba champion. It's going to be able to help deny the Camille a little bit, but doesn't seem like that big of a carry. I guess they're really convinced with, like, the Kha'Zix and the Zoe that they want a little bit more frontline. It's not the Renekton. They go towards the tank that can also have some of this cross-map pressure.
It got locked in. You're waiting for an Enigma. He does love his control mages. He won't shift the meta. Put the meta towards anything, gets set in the mid lane. He doesn't care. He's still going to play those control mages. So that getting locked in, he has played it recently. As recent as the last matchup that Dare had, if I remember correctly. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure he went 1-1 and 11, so just all ones across the board for Enigma in his most recent game. He's pretty much the only person playing the Vel'Koz throughout the entire tournament. I think it's a good challenge to the Zoe because you've got good range and good poke to kind of match what she does. Again, the threat here is that Dare doesn't have a bunch of disengage. They've got like the Xin Zhao ultimate, but aside from that, I mean, there's nothing preventing Mordio from jumping in, assassinating Vel'Koz or Soraka or Jinx or something like that, and continuing that train by just jumping around, right? Which is my one concern with Dare's composition. Now, if they do find themselves in a position where they get to walk into a river and they're not walking into a complete death trap, all of a sudden their control around fights, their AoE damage, it's enormous, and a Soraka ultimate is going to go huge inside of a fight to be able to work with to keep themselves alive. The poke damage is going to be way too much. You're not going to be able to beat out a team that's sieging when it's got a Vel'Koz, a Jinx, and a Soraka on it.
Now, looking at this as a whole, what I see personally when I look at Dare Gaming's composition is I see a lot of volatility in the way that the game can play out. If they do start falling behind early, Camille is a champion that doesn't take well once she starts having a deficit. I can't say too much about Vel'Koz. You can go over to, the cows cry home for that one. Over on the side of BMFX, we've already talked about the Jinx a lot, trying to keep that alive. There's not too much to really peel off of that Jinx, as you were saying just a second ago. If Dare chooses to opt for an engage into Winthrop, it is a very challenging engage to have to pull off. There's a lot of tools you have to get through. Not even just starting with the Lulu, but, the Arcane shifts away, and the fact that Mabud's going to be there trying to taunt anyone off who gets onto those carries.
I find it actually very difficult for Dare to respond to the ways that Winthrop can play this too, because you can play a reactive style where you can play like, okay, Lulu's got an ultimate that you can counter engage with, you throw a bubble in and that can cut off positioning, and then you got Mabud with like an E and then an E flash into the backline can really shut down what a Jinx or what a Vel'Koz can do during a fight. But also, you throw a Shen ultimate onto a Kha'Zix who jumps in if you have Lulu in the area, or if you're setting up bubbles or Ezreal to just like push people out of territory. They can play both of those styles. They can play reactive or like a responsive to an engage, or they can play very attacking and try to force their will upon Dare. Where Dare, it feels like it's a question of just like, how do they end up setting their feet in the right position? I use that term a lot, as a team needs desperately to be able to have ground that they can retreat to, and also the ability to move forward in the course of a fight when they start taking ground back from the enemy team. And getting your Vel'Koz and Jinx into a position that allows them to put out damage could be something that's a concern for Dare, especially like you said, if the Camille starts falling behind, if Limo starts falling behind, there's not a lot of front line to work with here that Winthrop isn't just going to be able to cleave through.
But if they do get a lead, it is a composition that can do a lot of damage, especially if you're getting engaged into. If you can provide a lot of protection over to Enigma on this Vel'Koz, Disintegration Ray does a lot in team fights in the right situations, especially if you can get them in those choke points. You're able to just funnel them up together. It can work well, but there's a lot of tools that at least are trying to prevent that from happening if you can get deep. This shouldn't be a composition where Winthrop are too together all the time. They are going to play a little bit more split in this one, but the potential is definitely there over on the side of Enigma.
The one benefit I think they have in this game is that Winthrop, like last game, they have to be very communicative with how their game plays out. They have to be very perfect with, we are engaging now. We are turning now. Because if they aren't, then all of a sudden you start getting damage in from Enigma, from BMFX. And again, these moments between, how do you stop a Vel'Koz from pressing Disintegration Ray and ripping through most of, if not all of the health bar of 2-3 members? How do you stop BMFX from just running forward into your team with rockets? Because you yourselves don't have anything except for the turning capabilities of like the Lulu and the Shek. Those are the two things that you have. And if those tools are burnt, like all of a sudden you're challenging a team with Soraka behind it, and it gets a little tumultuous. So for me, Winthrop, again, they give themselves a composition that's not super easy to play. They were able to execute it last time. Now Dare are in a situation where like they have to hope beyond hope that they can punish mistakes from Winthrop, because if those miscommunications are there, that's where their composition really is going to come together.
Yeah, is that going to be a thing though? Is that going to be the game plan for Dare, just focusing on the mistakes? Because I don't see too many places where Limo can try to play from, at least in the early game, to try and get Dare Gaming a lead, to try and stifle anything Winthrop can do in the early game. I feel like you have to get kind of creative to be able to stifle Winthrop.
The big benefit I think that you have on this composition from Dare is if you consider the early game, you don't have the best of setup really anywhere on the map. It's difficult to find a great ganking location, but what you do have in spades, especially on your bottom side, is wave clear. Wave clear is disgusting. You've got Vel'Koz in the mid lane who's going to be able to out wave clear the Zoe, especially before the first item mark, and then the Jinx, of course, has multiple ways of multi-target damage. You got Soraka even be able to drop Qs in the wave and be able to push that in. It should lead to dragon control pretty heavily in favor of Dare, unless Winthrop do something very significant about that. Like they have to, change the way they play the early game just to make sure that Dare doesn't ambiently have all this pressure on bottom side, where all of a sudden the Xin Zhao can start looking for mid and bot plays, and especially around the dragon. That's the big one to me.
All right, so match point for Winthrop. One more win here gets them out of groups and into the bracket stage. Let's do or die. For the side of Dare Gaming, let us know in chat who you think is going to win. Let's begin to hit the rift.
What a big win this would be for either team, right, Deserex? I mean, you're talking about Winthrop, who they rebuilt their roster from that previous. You talked about how the old roster gets way too much attention and how the new one wants to make a name for themselves. This would be a pretty big statement. And Dare, on a similar footing, they're a bunch of players that haven't really had the most experience, haven't had a bunch of proving grounds time to work with. And so a victory here and a turnaround win to qualify them for playoffs, especially with the #1 seed, it would put Dare in a position where all of a sudden all these players are like the next generation, where it's like, okay, we had last year's proving grounds players step in, now they're veterans. These are like the next people. These are new freshmen on the block that are looking to make the name, looking to kind of cement themselves as the next year's veterans and beyond.
And taking first seed in this group as well, a group that had Immortals AoE, one that was, so bragged about all over Twitter, all over whatever esports circles you're in, to be the #1 out of this group. Seeing them fall early, seeing Winthrop be a part of that, and even for Dare being able to take down the person who took down Immortals AoE, regardless of how this turns out, it still is a feel-good moment for either of these teams to be in that winners finals, quote unquote, for the group stage.
let me put it like this. Everybody in this game has already made enough of a name for themselves to be considered as like a, they've got their own aspects of how this is going to continue towards our next qualifier, towards Proving Grounds this split, or even into the summer, right? Like every single player has made names on certain champions, certain games, things like that, done very, very incredible stuff in a number of situations, which is why like both these teams have accomplished a fair amount. I don't think either team were expecting themselves to even get to where they are right now. I feel like there was even a possibility that both these teams were sitting in the opposite position where the loser was kicked out of this tournament. So to get yourself into a position where they're both competing for the #1 slot, especially like right now, I think it's humongous, and both of them are very proud and should be of where they've gotten so far. They're not done by any standard, don't get me wrong, but I think both of them are very happy with what they've done so far in the tournament, and they can build on that success for next time.
Getting into the game now. Red side start coming out of Mordio, going to be a blue side start coming out of Limo. You always got to watch that early pathing coming out of Mordio. We did talk about it a lot. He does love to power farm, but he also loves to power gank, and Kha'Zix is his bread and butter champion. We are definitely hyped to see him onto this champion and what he can bring to the Rift.
You know what's even funnier? Like, I just want to mention this one last time. It's probably the last callback that we'll have to this.
Man.
The meta at the time of that 2017 game I keep referencing was Rek'Sai and Kha'Zix as two of the biggest champions. There was actually a Kha'Zix. It was on the other team, not the one that Vex was playing on, but there was a Kha'Zix in that game, which is a little bit. That's just a little footnote. Sorry, it was worth mentioning.
Ooh, trip down memory lane and lots of pain for Mordio as he invades onto Limo. Will be able to get the steal, and is he going for more Rebel? He's peeking around that corner. He's taking a close look. He sees Dinner just waiting, and I'm not talking about the team over in the Pixel Brush, but not willing to go for anymore. Just going to steal away a couple of Raptors. Be happy with that.
Really incredible stuff. What happened on this bottom side? Goodness gracious. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it looks like level 3 was accomplished very quickly from Winthrop, somehow getting priority over the bottom lane. I think it was a lot on Kenji there. Props to him. Again, perhaps the most veteran member, at least on Winthrop's side, if not just like the most veteran player on the team alongside Vex. Knowing the fact that hitting that level 3 breakpoint, being able to force into Soraka like that, is going to win them better pushing on the bottom side. It opens up for the Kha'Zix to come back to bot lane, take a little bit there, and then maybe even set up for a play on the bottom side. But good on him being able to punish the health bars of BMFX and Blossoms before anything came back on the opposite side.
Yeah, and you're calling it right now. The idea focused on the bot side, but on the top side, it's going to be first blood. Mabud gets the 1v1 before Limo can even run the interference.
Goodness gracious right there. What a combination of plays. Mabud getting everything in the bottom side is more!
Vex coming in, able to get the kill on the back of Mordio's gank, and the dive works out. It's a beautiful start for Winthrop.
Incredible stuff from the bottom lane. We're going to get a look at the top lane play once again, as this is Mabud flexing on the Shen. Champion is a mean champion, or it's a mean champion in the earlier stages of the game. The taunt, the Qs, and trades back and forth. The Ignite went down as well, as Mabud just gets the 1-for-1 kill right there. Incredible. Even flashing just to make sure Limo can't hit him or deny him whatsoever. And back to bottom side again. This bottom side play that was generated off the back of the pushing power. The health is still low because Blossoms isn't able to walk too far up, and that's Mordio coming from a great angle on the back, and Vex being able to land enough damage alongside the Glitter Lance to find the last bit that was necessary on bottom side. It was supposed to be that Dare's bottom lane was what they were playing to in a game like this. They drafted some different lanes for mid and for top, but it was incredible to see that Winthrop play towards their bottom side. They get the Ezreal 2 kills to start with. They're off on a great foot.
It's a confident play coming out of Mordio. You can see that confidence in our question of the day as well. Oh, beautiful stuff to see go through. It's definitely a smart play. It's why we got hyped up when we saw him on this champion. But now the focus is towards the top side. Mabud was able to get that 1v1 earlier, which feels great for him. Now looking to take a recall is going to be censored on top of a ward. Mabud unable to stop the recall in time. I don't think he really cared if he did or not, but so overall, Winthrop off to a good start 5 minutes into this game.
Yeah, you're feeling great because the Shen really isn't meant to be too heavily of a laning pick for the most part. It's supposed to just be something that helps to neutralize the Camille. It's hard for the Camille to really fight even into the side laning portions of this game. And then, of course, its team fighting is really good. You've got engage, you've got like the W to deny a bunch of auto attack damage from BMFX, and then, of course, you have the cross map of the ultimate. Mabud getting an extra kill is just kind of a cherry on top. And even better, this champion can roam still for plays on the bottom side. You want to talk about shenanigans getting shut out because the teleport is not unleashed till 14 minutes. You know what is unleashed? stand united. That happens no matter what the situation as soon as level 6 gets hit, which means we could still see shenanigans to the bottom side just because of the Shen's global ability.
Or, however, Mordio will just start camping over towards that top side.
True.
You can see him kind of hovering over there. Not really sure if Censored's still in lane. But, no, just going to go for the invade now. I think he's looking for Limo. Very, very arrogant to go for this invade. You don't have a top laner there right now. You don't have a mid laner there right now as well. Mordio's all by his lonesome in here. That's it.
That was some big brain right there. Just walked in a straight line, making the bet that Enigma would not pop that Q sooner than the edge. What a Chad. It's like, I don't know if you remember the broadcast where like Doublelift just like stood in place and waited for like a Jinx W, and then the casters were like, only a professional can stand still and have it be a technical dot. Well, that right there is a great example of what they're talking about.
Here comes Mordio going deep on this dive past the towers. He has the backup of Kenji, who's not able to land the glitter lance. Here comes the battle star, Avano! Snipes Blossoms!
Alvaro comes out of absolutely nowhere. You have to think the invade on the top side, alongside just the fact that they knew that Enigma had stepped out of lane, it bought enough time for Alvaro to move. Now Limo makes a response because he worked from the top side into trying to gank Mabud. But this is a Shen. This isn't going to be super easy.
This is a really hard dive to do. He gets the double touch under the tower. Ultimatum goes off. It's Censored goes down. Limo's getting hit by the tower as well. The TP not going through in the process, but that is a 1-for-1 trade.
I think the TP was stopped. Well done by Enigma, because again, Limo would have certainly been executed by Avano right there as well, and there would have been basically nothing to accomplish. That would have been a 2-2, or like a 2-kill Zoe, a 2-kill Ezreal, and it would have been a completely failed dive on the top side. So there is that as well. This is the replay of that, of what happened right here. Avano, I think he tries to step back maybe. Enigma would have had to step into tower. That's the TP. Yeah, he's going to step up and use the tectonic shift and just stop that. Again, that would have been an amazing setup, because again, how do you dive a Shen as auto-attacking champions with a taunt and things like that? Well, first off, they kicked off by having Censored start to tank the tower, and then he just never lost aggro because he got taunted underneath the tower as well. Super difficult to pull off in a very clean fashion. The kill does go to Limo, who does survive the encounter, so maybe now Xin Zhao can attack the rest of the map, but altogether, Mabud absorbing a bunch of pressure, and everywhere else on the map, they're finding wins.
I'm going to be honest, I'm not hearing Mabud, I'm hearing Mad Lad, but I still agree with it.
Mad Lad, that's true.
Yeah, great start to him, 2-2-0 so far, handling pretty much the worst of what Dare has thrown at him, and still getting kills at the end of the day. Now has his Tiamat completed, so going to have a lot of presence and shoving in those waves.
Goodness gracious, we're on a 2k advantage for Winthrop, which is a solid start to the game. They've got, Mordio is now on like the serrated Dirk. It should be fast enough to take dragons and stuff. Their bottom side somehow is continuing to pushing pressure even into the Jinx and into the Soraka, which like was drafted as a response to the Lulu. Which is just a bit interesting to me that like this lane isn't working out nearly as much as they wanted. Blossoms will scale really well into the later stages as the Soraka slowly picks up items and gets those heals to ridiculous values. But again, this early laning phase probably not playing out exactly as they wanted it to. I mean, Vex, look at that. I mean, that was an EQ being landed on BMFX, and it weren't for the fact that the Q had landed by Blossoms, probably wouldn't have even been able to dub the W without losing too much health, and that would have meant that BMFX was sitting at half health before another Q was tagged. So it's not looking up right now for Dare Gaming. They still are this late game monster, right? We're not counting them out at any point before the end of the game, before the Nexus has actually been taken, because of this team fighting propensity they've shown.
The hard thing, though, is this composition is not exactly the best at playing from behind. Limo looking to change the situation as he sets up for a gank over in the bot lane. True Shot Barrage goes out, only looking to clear the wave.
Very nice.
Vex does have Arcane Shift available, will not be in too much danger. Shifts away, gets a good chunk of chip damage onto Limo, who looks to turn it around, but the ultimate going to be used by Kenji in the process, and Limo goes low. Mordio nowhere near the area, so no counter gank to come up. Mordio's going to put his attention on the top side.
And if I were Vex and Kenji, I would actually jump this wave a little bit, try to stop the back. If the respect is not given, okay, yeah, he's going to back really far back. And the reason for this is just because Rift Herald is a possibility. Shen, as soon as the wave is fixed, has the Tiamat, hopefully, to be able to correct that one. And now that the ultimate's available, it means really, kind of crazy that Mordio just gets to step into the opposing jungle for free. I was hoping they would go for a Rift Herald, but I see what the intention is, because if Limo does not pay attention to what's happening and steps into the jungle, then things could go wrong.
And he doesn't even realize Mordio's over there. Mordio over the wall, destroys Enigma. Easy gank, easy money, easy paper made as he's just going to hop away.
I was kind of waiting for Mordio to just wait for Limo to show up in his own jungle, but it ends up not being the case. He runs directly up mid, but the time was there. Enigma drops the ultimate trying to kill off Ivano. Ivano flashes. He can't turn on the swivel quite fast enough, and no bubble really to punish either, so it's just a kill onto the bottom lane. I was hoping this would also transition. I actually think eventually this works out for Dare better than anything because they don't lose the Rift Herald. If they had just gone to Rift Herald pit with like a Zoe pushing in the mid lane and Enigma's ultimate not accomplishing anything, then they grab the Rift Herald for basically free. That's 2 plates. That might be even a Shen broken out of the laning phase entirely. But instead it just ends up being the 1 kill. It does go over, I think, to Mordio as well. So that's a nice kill for the Kazakhs. But ultimately it's probably more palatable than giving away a Rift Herald for free.
You do see the gears moving in Winthrop University's minds as they try and play and plan around where Limo's going. Now that he's cleared out the top side, they do have a deep control ward there, have some idea if he would have gone over towards those golems. They see nothing, they make the call. They do have some priority over in the top side, thanks to my bud holding down Censored. Kenji roams up, it's going to be an easy Rift Herald.
Easy enough. Very, very nice. It's a little bit cleaner. I think Winthrop were in a position where, like, if they had forced onto the Rift Herald, they could have potentially pulled the attention of Limo right back out to the map, and it would have ended up being like a 3-for-2, but they don't want to give any options open for Dare to, like, get back into the game, either the Camille getting a kill or even, like, Enigma getting a couple of kills. So instead, they opted for, like, the counterplay of going into the enemy jungle, attacking there, maybe using, like, the ultimate from the Shen in a situation. They ended up not having to do any of it, because they get the kill in mid, they get the Rift Herald off the back of the roam from Kenji, and you can't really aggress against that in the bottom line. I told you, this is a stone wall. You're taking what is effectively a plastic toy hammer into a brick wall. It's not going to break. You need more powerful tools right now, and Limo is not that powerful of a tool. The MFX and Blossoms on a Jinx and a Soraka aren't really that powerful to break this down either.
You're still trying, though. Limo hovering around that area. You're not going to get him. It's an Ezreal, and he's well aware of who's standing there.
Or at least...
Now here comes Shelly.
Yeah, I was hoping maybe Enigma was actually roaming down to bot lane. We were going to see the 4-man time on the Vex.
Just bring all 5. Just bring all 5 and dive the spawn to get Vex. That's the only way you're going to find him.
Evidently, yeah. But yeah, this is the situation we had talked to just previously where Winthrop, they find the Rift Herald, they get into the top lane, they break out the Shen. Now all of a sudden you have this long lane. Censor's going to be able to catch minions a little bit further back. They actually get a second charge because Censor tries for a play against Mordio. That's a little weird. That is a lot of damage onto the top tower. That could easily be a fair amount of gold if they just want to come up and gank against Censor to be stands too far up in the lane. Easy enough to set up, and bottom side everything goes awry.
Oh, Limo goes very, very low. Has the Crescent Guard. It does buy him a little bit of safety. He'll be able to walk out as Enigma just comes down for one little pop of the Q and walks out. But he doesn't realize he's being pincered.
Oh, that's bad.
Ivano's walking up. Sleepy Trouble Bubble comes out. It's blocking his path. Kenji will just take him down. It's for free.
Oh my goodness, Dare Gaming, like I said, this is a brick wall, and now they've got like wet sponges, and they're just trying to slowly chip away little tiny bits with corrosion, but it's not going to happen. And right there, even better, Enigma has to come down just to try. He gets pushed back, but this is communicated. Everything is being talked about. Winthrop is not losing in any aspect of this game. This is a team that looked so bad in open qualifiers in their first game. We didn't even know if they were going to make it to this stage, and they are commanding a victory against one of the more hyped up 4-1 prospects out of open qualifiers, and they're about to take the #1 seed from this group going into playoffs.
Over Immortals AoE on top of that, holy hell, Winthrop have come to play. But Dare Gaming, they're going to take what they can, whatever scraps they can find left on the floor from Winthrop's feast. It is going to be a Drake, Infernal Drake picked over to Dare Gaming's side.
Oh, goodness. The Chem Tank also is perhaps the most influential soul in the entire game. I personally prefer Hextech. I don't know what your opinions are. Not because of the soul, but because I think the portals are really cool and they add a lot more to the game. Invisibility zones are not fun. They are not interactable, as well as the dragon or the soul just being miserable. Everybody getting a Scion passive is not fun. Mordio had to stop because Ivano just was way too threatening, and in the face of the Vel'Koz is another gank to stop this Vel'Koz from continuing to just sit here and scale. Nobody's allowed to be comfortable in this Dare Gaming squad.
Yeah, CS lead going over to Ivano, but the big thing you have to watch is how many deaths Enigma has. Fallen twice, 1-0-2 over on the side of Ivano, who's been handling this lane quite well, and more money going over to Winthrop as they're going to cash in on that bot lane tower as well. My goodness, Mordio has more gold than any laner on the side of Dare Gaming.
Everybody, all the major carries on Winthrop currently outgolding every member of Dare that's supposed to get gold. Even their support's winning the trade, but that's going to happen most of the time anyway. That is insane. And Ezreal being this accelerated, already on the 2 completed items, now just needs to get to the crown, and there is no threat against him. He can do as he pleases as this game continues. This is not looking good. Dare Gaming, they better figure out how to team fight this, because I'm coming up with nothing right now.
Yeah, don't look at me on this one. Small play-by-play brain can't figure out this much of a deficit when we're 60 minutes in, 5k behind, and everything is going Winthrop's way. Compositionally, in the lanes, in the neutrals, you couldn't really ask for more, as now the rotation is going to come out of Dare Gaming, sending their bot lane to match the bot lane of Winthrop over in the mid lane. As they currently try and pivot where they can find resources. You're going to see a pivot over up to the top lane from Vex as he sees a gank going on, trying to focus down my bud, but my bud has no threat whatsoever. He just hops over the wall, lost a slither of health in the process.
Yeah, I mean, if they full engage on that, Mordio is around, and Vex can come up river because he had already pushed up the laning phase. And the ultimate, I think, was just a warning of, you continue this fight, things aren't going to go your way. Even if you kill the Shen, you're not going to get anything on the back end, and you're going to be giving way too much gold. Dare Gaming, again, trying to come up with some fathomable response. Number one, they've come back from gold deficits. I feel like the gold deficits they've come back from mostly haven't been at, 5,000, 6,000 at this early stage of a game, which is still difficult, but it's still not impossible. You've got the Jinx, you've got the Vel'Koz. In the right situation, those two can still put out a bunch of damage, and even just the Jinx getting excited in a fight can make a difference. As well as Limo has a good amount of damage. He is a gore drinker. Xin Zhao, it could still be easy enough in a 1-on-1 or a 2v2 situation to find something powerful. But ultimately, it seems like this game, unless something significant changes about the way that Winthrop is playing things out, you can see they're just getting bullied by Vex. What are they to do? I think they just have to wait for big objectives. They have to wait for their Baron. They have to wait for their Elder Dragon. But that's giving so much priority over to the side of Dare Gaming. Can I say the setup that I had for this Vex pick of the Ezreal could not have played out any better? I wasn't expecting this to happen when I referenced the 2017 match that he played years ago, but this is just
You're
amazing.
Recasting that game. You're recasting that game right now, Dean.
They didn't win that game, unfortunately. They lost that. They went 0-5.
You're recasting the other
0-10.
timeline of that game.
Yeah, it's casting the other timeline where it looks completely different.
Ooh, a hop over the wall coming out of Censored, but look at the tower. Not much health to really protect you. If you do get under your tower, they could just whack it or just take him down inside his own ultimatum. It doesn't matter. Mordio gets that kill, and the tower falls immediately following.
Yeah, and the Wish just does nothing either. You can see right there in the middle of that, it got dropped, and yes, did it remove previous wounds? Yeah, but it was like, there's no AP, there's no completed item that's going to give bonus healing whatsoever completed so far on the Soraka. Right now, that champion is basically doing nothing. You can see the dive on the top side after the Rift Herald went down. Nemo's even getting aggressed on, where not for the ultimate, he probably would have died. Vex has ultimate if he wants to try to snipe him, but I doubt they use that. But Rift Herald's back up too. Dragon's going to be up here any second now. They just control everything. There's no play for Dare. They've got nothing to do.
You couldn't really ask for more.
No.
Winthrop have complete control of the map. They've yet to lose an outer tower in the process, only losing an Infernal Drake to Dare Gaming. They were happily to forfeit that one off of a win, off of a team fight win. It's great. What more could you ask for?
I don't know that you could ask for anything else. You can even see like the turret health. Look at this. It's barely chipped away at whatsoever. You got a couple of plates on bottom side probably for BMFX. But like usually in games like this that have been turned by Garrett, they also have somebody that's able to carry a fight. In this game, it's pretty much just Limo. It's Limo against the world. In terms of items, everybody's sitting at like the 1.5. I guess Censored is a little bit further along. He's got 165 farm and almost has like he's got like the Tiamat to help respond to the Titanic Hydra, and then a little bit more in terms of AP with the Caulfield. But like I really don't see it. I feel like Dare is just slowly bleeding to death. This is that moment that I talked about where it's like Dare really hadn't had this problem previously where, they take a little paper cut and then it turns into something that's just like gushing blood, right? They hadn't had a problem like that. Usually they can keep it within a manageable range, but they have done nothing to slow down Winthrop at all in this.
And here we go, Winthrop now sieging up onto the mid lane inner. taking it down. You do see Limo trying to come in with the flank.
Ooh.
Enigma on the sidelines as well. This is going to be a tough one to pull off. Objective bounty picked up, and now getting flanked himself is going to be Limo. Didn't realize he was the hunted in that exchange. Mordio chasing still. Crescent Guard goes out, and the rest of Winthrop looking to try and block Dare from protecting their jungler whatsoever. Mordio will take him down. The split push is still coming out of Censored, but Winthrop, they don't really care at this point. They can take whatever they see fit.
They're going to look at the Baron, and I think that's a perfectly reasonable response. Your engage is gone. Censored's pretty much the only one left that can frontline or do any sort of engage, and they've got the consistent damage for this. They've got more than enough. Objective bounties, yes, going into the pocket of Dare Gaming, but they aren't that high. They aren't giving a bunch of this turnaround gold like they were intended maybe to do in the preseason or anything like that. They aren't massive. They're not going to accomplish all that much. Ivano almost goes down to the rocket. That's a Baron confirmed, and no T-fight left. Vex wants more, but the rest
Vex,
of
he
the
wants
low.
it, gets the auto, and gets the entirety of Dare. Able to get the double kill, still able to back off, finds another one. Mordio will defend him. An easy rampage picked up there. BMFX didn't realize the insect was right in his face. A double kill for Mordio.
The team fight damage just it spells out the team the entire fight. You can see it's mostly Mordio, mostly Vex, the two of them just doing anything they want. They don't have Limo, they don't have a team fight, they don't have somebody contest the Baron. They are, just trying their best at anything. This was good by Limo. Had the word not been there, maybe they find something sneaky because of Enigma, but then Mordio is the one that's hunting him down. He actually ends up almost winning the one-on-one too, but Shen is an unfair champion, you see, because he presses ultimate and he gives him a really big shield, and then he shows up. That's going to cause the loss of the jungler here for Dare, and that's what spirals this all out of control, right? You have nobody to help jump into the pits. You have nobody really outside of Censored that can help anything out. He's already in the bottom lane. They lost the Baron long before anything else could come through in terms of contests. Yes, Enigma tried with the ultimate, but it's not going to be enough tick damage per second. And Vex just kind of, he's like, I'm just going to go for it. He decides to start killing everybody. But at this point, even if they leave the Baron, they'd already had the game in their back pocket.
So good for Winthrop, 13-2, such a strong commanding lead, almost 10k. Limo tries to find an engage onto Vex, but Vex can just walk on out. He has no threat, he has no worry. Baron buff on Winthrop as they start circling around this top side. No one really doing a split push on the bottom side, but you do have the wave shoved in, and now jumping in is going to be Censored. Will he be able to do much? He gets the 1v1 against Vex. That is the ADC down. That is step one for Dare, but the health bar too low for Censored. He will drop. Mordio has now joined the fray. Limo trying to get to the safety of his teammates, but holding him down is going to be my bud. He's going to back off with the taunt. Limo tries to go through. BMFX will be able to take him down. BMFX finds another one. It's going to be two. Drop it. Mordio is looking for BMFX, but Limo is playing on defense. Mordio goes invisible, trying to find a way in as the Sleepy Trouble Bubble's gonna land. Here comes the paddle star. Look at Mordio, looking for BMFX. Mordio will claim them all. Winthrop take the team fight ace.
Oh man, I want an expansion to this question. It's not just I think I could beat anybody across in the right circumstances. I could kill a whole team in the right circumstances. He cleans up everything. The lost fight from Vex in the one-on-one is pretty much the only member that can contest anybody in Censored. Gets evaporated from the fight, and the patience of Mordio, waiting one target at a time, hunting them individually, playing, probably just cosplaying a little bit of Kha'Zix in his own right, hunting down the individual champions. Dare never stood a chance. They're already down this much gold. That was probably the best chance at a team fight they were ever going to have, and Mordio put a stop to it immediately.
My God, look at the guys, KDA 10-0-3. It's his pop-off champion for a reason, folks. He is good at Kha'Zix, and that gold lead is ballooning, it's exponentiating. It is hemorrhaging blood from Dare Gaming, and there's not a damn thing they can do about it.
The paper cut is no longer even just a slice on the arm. It is an amputated arm. There is nothing there remaining. We are waiting. It's 12.5. It's actually 11,500 gold lead right now for Winthrop. But they've got this Ezreal in a great position. They've got an insanely powerful Kha'Zix, as you saw in the previous fight. They've got more than enough tools in a number of situations. This is not to mention, the 2.5 item, Ivano Zoe, which is a terrifying prospect of its own, right? You've got Mabud, who's still terrifying. He is a frontline Shen that can throw an ultimate in and turn a fight all the way around. I also don't think we've praised Kenji enough for a number of times just being this massive support machine vector for Vex during the course of everything else that has come about. Great pops to every member of the team who has made it possible so far. Winthrop just looking for the kill shot. They've got 2 dragons until Soul Point. That would be just, Dare cannot let that happen, but I think they're going to try to end it before that.
Oh, they're just going right after Censored Sorelio is going to be popped there. Censored gets low, but is not going to fall under the tower. They're going for this tower dive as Limo goes deep. It's going to be a shutdown so far. Mordio is going to fall, his first death of this game. That is a massive shutdown for Dare to be able to pick up.
This is where patience needs to come out from the side of Winthrop. A lot of teams, when they're accelerating towards the end of the game, they're trying to pick up everything. They're trying to do everything right. It is 4.5 minutes until you receive your win condition. If you get, Chemtech Drake and you get the Zombie Scion passive with multiple champions that are up this much gold, there's almost no way that they are able to win a team fight with that aspect in your back pocket, especially down this much without your Jinx really being on super high power, without your Vel'Koz being on very high power. Just take your lane slow. Take everything slow if you have to. You can walk this one in. You don't have to sprint. It's no longer a race. It is a marathon. You just got to get across the finish line.
See there, the Ray going to be used over the wall. Look at a little bit of damage onto Kenji. Not going to amount to too much, though. True Shot Barrage goes out, lands onto the backside of Enigma. Now Dare Gaming not really feeling safe going for the siege. Going to back off instead and take the reset. They have been pushed to their base for quite some time, and now it's going to be up to Winthrop to get these lanes pushed back in. You got a wave building over on the top side, setting my butt up there to make sure that crashes into Dare side of the map.
You got to be proud. Somewhere off in the distance, training right now with the best of the best, probably ganking Faker and making him feel miserable, boot camping wherever he's at. Frostforce has got to be looking upon his team right now with just like a feeling of such pride, being able to take a team like that to a national championship, and now going on to different horizons, being on the C9, perhaps even just temporarily, but watching Mordio step into his role and watching the rest of this team come together. I mean, how happy could you be if you were the coach, the director, the manager, whoever it is? The entire staff of Winthrop have to be so happy with the turnaround that they've been able to make over just the course of this tournament alone. To be able to be this competitive, you can see the high level play that they're capable of bringing to the amateur scene. And it's a question now also of like, okay, Dare Gaming, I'm not trying to count them out super heavily, but being down 11,000 gold, being down 11,000 gold. Winthrop competing for a top 6 spot seems now within reach for a team like this if they're capable. I'm interested in your thoughts of whether or not you think that they're a top 16, especially when they're on form like this, because those are the ones that are guaranteed spots in approved grounds.
You're interested in my thought, man. I'm completely marking out when it comes to Winthrop. Anytime I see them do well, it's not a top 6 team, it's a top 1 team, damn it, no. But getting into this right now, you gotta look at what's going on in the picture-in-picture. A little bit of exchange going on as the Baron is attempted out of Winthrop. Looking to get him lower and lower. It doesn't look too good for my butt over there. It should be a 1v1 win. Actually, almost gets turned around. Censored is just barely able to get that 1v1, but that is a man down for Winthrop. The same man you're looking to defend you with those stands united, but over the wall comes Vex. He's able to hop over, doesn't get hit too much by Disintegration Ray. The Baron so low, looking to get in. It's gonna be Limo, but Baron is picked up by Winthrop. Limo dives over anyway. He's looking to find something. He finds the claws of Mordio cutting his face off. Censored, now looking to pick up, now looking to go onto janitorial duty, but here comes Mordio, invisible, able to get the damage. Over the wall comes Vex. Vex looking for more, misses the mixed stick shot, but still able to finish him off. Now Enigma running back. Mordio dives forward, unable to get too much. He throws out the missiles, doesn't get the geometry to land it onto Mordio. BMFX very far out from this fight. Blossom incredibly low in this fight. If the missiles land onto him, he's down. Avado takes them. BMFX trying to run away. Enigma trying to run away, but a Paddle Star pats him straight back to the respawn. BMFX is deep in enemy territory. A Sleepy Trouble bubble comes out. There's nowhere for him to go but straight to the respawn as Mabud walks up, gives him a pat on the back, says, "Nice try, buddy, but goodbye." Winthrop take the team fight win.
And now 4 members down, only about 15 seconds for 2 of them to respawn, but Enigma and BMFX, the 2 big ones, are down for a very significant chunk of time. Winthrop, if they can't win the game off the back of this, they can dismantle this base and make sure it is going to be all too easy to waltz this one in. The second the Dragon Soul ends up spawning a couple of seconds, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to take mid inhibitor. They're going to shove in an additional wave. They're going to pull back. They're going to try to get back timers off, probably with their Baron buff, and redeploy for the final Drake of the game. And when they get that one in their back pocket, they are going to run down mid lane with 5 members, each one with a Guardian Angel passive. That is, of course, if Mordio decides not to kill every single person on the other team himself.
And he gets out before the hook shot can find him. That is a flash burnt on Blossoms. That will make an easy target later. 10 seconds left before the Drake does spawn. And you said it earlier, Rebel. That is going to be a win condition in their pocket. They are just moments away from being able to get it and dare feel the pressure as they start setting up around Drake.
They gotta try to take one desperation fight. If they can't get out of this series with one winning team fight, it would be very tough. Here we go.
Ultimatum used onto Mordio, trying to take down Mordio. Kenji left unchecked in the process as he tries to defend, but it's not going to be enough. BMFX falls. Avano on the flank comes in with the pedal star, but my butt is getting lower and lower. Still, Dare are alive. Still, they're trying to fight. They have a man lead, but they don't have much in terms of resources. They are falling one by one from the poke, and there's nothing they can do about it. It is time to drop. Dare will drop, and the University of Winthrop are going to be the ones who end up on top.
Our third, my apologies, qualifier for the playoffs here in the first Unified Esports Association Proving Grounds qualifier tournament. Incredible stuff from this squad. An insane turnaround from the open qualifiers and a winning team fight at the very end. Got to give props to Dare. They tried to pull out a 5-on-5. They tried to make the miracle run happen all the way from 4-1. A team that was 20th seed cannot make it happen. Winthrop go instead from losing in the first round of the open qualifiers to taking the spot and going to playoffs as the number 1 seed.
No one expected it, Rebel. There was low expectations when it came to Winthrop University and how they would do in this tournament. Expectations be damned. A 2-0 victory over Dare Gaming. A 2-1 victory over AoE Immortals. Winthrop are pogging, my dude.
It's nothing but throppers out right now. For anybody inside the collegiacy, anybody who knows any of these players, that is the best I have seen them play since they have remade that roster from the summer. They are looking incredible. The competition they played against, the competition they've beaten, that's all that they needed to prove right then and right there. Insane stuff from everybody on the day. Across both games, every single person performing admirably in a number of different roles, in a number of different situations. There is not even a highlight player. I just have to give props to this entire squad being able to come back from essentially not only losing 2 players before the tournament had even started, but not being able to scrim in that time and having to overcome so many issues before getting to this point. Winning out in Group C was not something that anyone expected for Winthrop, but here they are.
Rebel, I am so happy to be wrong. I keep voting against Winthrop, and every time I do, I do it with a pain in my heart that says, my brain says they just won't be able to do it. Yeah. I am damn wrong, and I am happy to be wrong in this case, because Winthrop keeps showing up, they keep thwarting our expectations, and they keep having these phenomenal performances. I mean, from the very start of this tournament, expectations were low, but for good reason. Avano was floundering. Vex and Kenji were having some hard times finding their synergies together. Even over in the top lane, my bud, while he might be able to play anything that has a little bit of a health pool tied to it, he still wasn't having those standout performances. They came together once the group stage started, and they started dominating, Dean.
The expectation wasn't there for a lot of people. In fact, if we actually get the prediction bracket pulled up, the majority of people had gone about from actually, predicting today for Dare Gaming. A lot of them were able to actually make that happen because they had seen what Dare had accomplished through the majority of everything else. But you know who did predict? Myself, your boy, collegiate caster and a professional Winthrop expert, alongside the LFL professional caster Beatdown Boulevard, who currently is smashing everybody in this prediction contest because he's an absolute god. I actually switched my prediction today. Going through VODs the last couple of days, I was convinced Dare might be the better team. Watching what this team looked like against IMT and over the course of the last couple of days, like you said, that growth that they've made, I had to swap it. I had to call Winthrop in the victory instead, and I'm glad I did because they proved me very right. They looked insane today.
I am so excited to be wrong, as I said. They did look insane. I'm sorry for doubting any of the Winthrop players, especially my bud. My bud, I owe you the biggest apology for doubting you. You're a spectacular player. And Winthrop, man, top 1 team now. That's it. I'm only voting for Winthrop from here on out. It was a solid performance.
It was a very, very good performance from them. And with that, I mean, we now also get to see the other side of the matchup, because if we had saw that Winthrop lost this one, they would have to go back and repeat the process against INT AoE, which has to be difficult because they're the team that won. They have things to learn from that series, but IMT also gets to walk into that series mad, which is not how you want to see a lot of the members of IMT in the right situation. So now they actually get the opportunity to play against Dare. So now it's a competition of LCS affiliated kind of amateur squad inside of IMT AoE versus Dare, who are this build up of everybody else that has come about.
So, expected winners being Immortals AoE, but we really saw what happens when we have an expectation like that.
Yeah, sorry.
They still have their matchup to play against Supernova. So the winner against Immortals AoE versus Supernova will take on Dare, and yeah, a lot to prove there. But we did just get an update. Hyper, can I get a repeat on that one real quick? I believe that was Taco Gaming taking a game off of Maryville.
Not one game. They're currently upsetting. They're actually up in game number 2. Yeah, they're currently upsetting. And after game 1, which I believe Maryville was up 4 or 5K at the beginning of the game at some point, things shifted. Taco Gaming took game 1, and they're currently down in game number 2, where Maryville, again, they're on the verge of being upset as well, because just about everybody minus 3 people predicted Maryville in that series. And after their incredible play over the most of the tournament, that would also be a little bit of a shocker to not see another one of these collegiate powerhouses. Also, my apologies. Nobody let Dylan tell that I predicted IMT against Supernova, because I have a lot of faith that Supernova is going to look really good tonight, and that it's going to go the full distance. That's on me. I'm not going to let my predictions come through. That series is going to be on after Academy, so that's going to be a good one to watch. Make sure to go over there and see which of those teams is going to come through. Now, don't do that to me. Come on. That's not fair. No. Not like this.
No, let's just keep it there for a little bit. And in fact, let's frame that on the wall. Frame my doubt of Winthrop on the wall while you're at it. It's the wall of shame. But yeah, so far, the LCS Proving Ground Circuit qualifiers have been amazing. With every single division that we've seen so far, we did have to say goodbye to a couple of teams rather recently. Team Ambition and UCI were eliminated, and Radiance, Bay State College will be advancing over to their losers finals, so to say. This is what I'm kind of loosely calling them. It's still a group stage. Winner of that will go forward. Yeah, still plenty of competition to go off given this tournament so far, and a lot of excitement to see with the way this group stage has been shaping up.
It really has been. I also, just a repetition of something that we talked about a couple of times now. EGP got a forfeit win against Dinka. They had an unfortunate situation where they ended up having to forfeit out of that series, which is why you're not getting a second game here on Unified tonight. Ends up with them going on and taking on the loser of the game that's currently on Academy. So that's another big thing. But like you said, the fact that we have some of the most exciting games that we've seen, where like UCI nearly took it to Golden Guardians being the 15th seed, even though they dropped out. I mean, they came out and they showed what they needed to. Team Ambition had some really good play as well. They took 100 Thieves to 3 full games and Radiance to 3 full games, especially on a Seraphine like play. We have so many talented teams here. It sucks to lose anybody over the course of a lot of these plans. It's going to happen eventually, but as we continue forward, these teams continue to improve. Teams like Winthrop, they're surging at the exact right time, looking amazing. Teams like that are confirming these playoff spots, seeing them compete is what's going to be really exciting as the time comes along.
Dean, we just got the update. Taco 2-0'd.
There it is. Look at that.
I love League of Legends, Dean. I love League of Legends. I'm not voting with my brain anymore. I'm going to vote with my heart.
Vote with your heart. That's always the correct decision, man.
But we are not done with the series here today. The series might be done, but we do have an interview lined up. We are going to throw it over to who are we throwing it to? Izzy, thank you.
Izzy
with an interview with my favorite. It's an interview with my bud. Don't go slay this one, Izzy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm joined today with Mabud of Winthrop University. Mabud, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Now, congratulations on this series. You guys put up a dominant performance up against the 6th seed in Dare Gaming. Explain to me the strategy you guys took to close out the series 2-0.
Well, we did some prep a couple 30 minutes beforehand. We had a pretty solid draft going into it, and we no flame, but we kind of just knew we were better. So we were just like, if we can beat IMT, we can kind of shaft there, and that's exactly what happened. So it was just gaps.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the mentality to have. Now, talking about draft, you got target banned or got a lot of those topside bans pretty heavily. So what is kind of the discussion and decision-making process when you know that they're just trying to, get you off of, what's meta or what's good?
Yeah, well, I know they're scared for sure. I have a champion Ocean, to be honest, so you can try and ban me out, but I'm just gonna find something else to pick. Like that game, I was playing Shen. I don't even really play Shen, but it worked out, so I feel like it's kind of a waste to ban me out, and it just lets me know that you're scared, so it works out.
Yeah, absolutely. Champion Ocean is a great way to describe it. Now, you guys have pulled out 2 winning series against higher seeded teams. How does this have you guys feeling going into playoffs?
We feel pretty good getting first seed. I feel like it's kind of weird though that that they're higher seed, than us, but it is what it is, I guess. But it feels pretty good going into playoffs. I'm pretty excited to see who we're gonna go against. Um, I think there's some good teams for sure in the top 4. I'm excited to play against Maryville specifically. I kind of want to test myself against Niles because I feel like I've watched a lot of his streams and his VODs and stuff, so I think he's a really good player, and I'm excited to finally play against him.
Absolutely. That would be an interesting matchup. 2 of the top CLOL teams. Are there any other teams you're kind of looking forward to playing at the, higher end of this tournament?
Not really, no. I think, like I said, the top 4 teams are pretty good, so I'm excited to see how we match up against them, but mainly just Maryville got my eyes on because also the rivalry between them last year as well. So
Absolutely. Well, you guys are out for blood in that one. Now, you guys play some pretty amazing team fights. It seems that they're super patient, super thought out. How did you guys kind of develop this play style in these team fights?
I think we just keep our communication clean and we kind of designate targets that we're going to be focusing down, and usually it just goes well because we're all pretty good mechanically. So it's like if we have one target that we're trying to burst down or whatever, and we're playing well, then it's pretty smooth, and we look for flanks and stuff like that. And flank, when we get a good flank off, in the first game, it's just a wash basically. So
Yeah. Well, the other teams will have to look out for those flanks. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, and congratulations on another series win. Our casters will return after a short break to take a look back at today's series, so stay tuned.
Welcome back, everyone, to the LCS Proving Ground Circuit Qualifiers. And our wrap-up of the last series we just witnessed between Dare Gaming and Winthrop University. Winthrop getting the upset. They were able to get the win. I'm not sure if it's that much of an upset at this point with the stuff they've been able to pull in the past, but charming interview from Izzy and Mabud, of course, and lots of love out to the Winthrop roster.
Yeah, fantastic win for them on the day. Of course, taking away that series, being able to take that to 2-0 against Dare Gaming was a pretty big statement. Their opponent actually gets decided a little bit later on. We'll get into the schedule for the rest of the day. Also, just mentioning again, the other game that was supposed to be on this channel between EG and Dinka Never Homeless had a scheduling conflict, and that meant that unfortunately Dinka had to FF, which means that they have dropped out, and EGP are going on to take the losers of what happened just seconds ago. Actually, Maryville lost a 2-0 to Taco Gaming. So Taco Gaming is the number 1 seed out of what is Group D, and that means that Maryville will be playing EGP for the competition for the final spot going into playoffs.
And that gives us our first 4 that have qualified now. Earlier, 100 Thieves next and Golden Guardians Academy, as we mentioned at the top of the day. But now, Taco Gaming and Winthrop University. Surprise, surprise, it's great stuff to see, but it shows you the nature of this tournament thus far and all the talent that's really come through from the Proving Ground circuit.
It truly has. A lot of people are... I said it at the very beginning during open qualifiers, during some of the streams I was doing before we had actually started into the official tournament. This is a place where I feel like there are a bunch of teams that had their teams come together within the month or two before Proving Grounds, but not a lot of them had a bunch of time to work with to prepare. And so over the course of the tournament, they're getting better. They're getting more scrim time. They're getting games against good teams. They're preparing. They're understanding the meta. They're understanding their own game style. And you can see that adapt. You're seeing seeds like the 13 seed in Taco Gaming, the 14 seed in Winthrop take entire groups, and you've got teams like Maryville or EGP, teams that are suspected to be in the top of the top that are dropping games just because again they're still trying to figure things out. They're still putting all of their pieces together as well. This is a very kind of shaky time for every single team, but everybody looks like they've got talent in spades across the board. We love to see it here in the amateur scene.
And now with the day concluded, we don't want to take too much of your time before we send you over to the Academy stream. We want to take one more look at the predictions as this day does wrap up because my heart was already broken. We've talked about that. Winthrop taking the dub. I'm happy about that. Taco Gaming taking the dub. I'm happy about that. But my brain betrayed me, Dean. For you being spot on with that prediction. Of course, beat down Boulevard. You already talked about him being a professional caster with the Is it LFL? Is that the acronym?
LFL, yeah.
LFL, yeah. And he's obviously killing. He's obviously watching closely on a lot of these squads.
Doing very, very well. As well as, the only game remaining for the entire night over in the Academy stream is actually going to be that Immortal Supernova, so Rude Dude can prove all of us to be ridiculed once again if another massive upset against one of our top few seeds comes again to fruition, where if IMT ends up dropping to Supernova, which is entirely possible given Supernova's performance in the past, I don't think it would be completely ridiculous given how close it was against Winthrop for them to really test. I do suspect that does end up going to 3 full games. I said that already. The possibilities there to end up taking that one. That's going to be an exciting one for everyone to watch. Predictions may seem like it's a little bit one-sided, but you could say that one way or another. A lot of people predicted a lot of games to go one way or the other, and not a lot of people have been correct today.
All right. Well, closing this out, we do want to give one more shout out to our sponsor, and that is going to be Skulls. Looking to upgrade your gamer gear? Look no further. Start your 2022 off right with official unified esports merchandise brought to you by Skulls. Hoodies, joggers, jerseys, armbands, and a lot more coming soon. You've got the skill, now get the swag. Skulls.com/collection/unified has everything you need. Gear up, game on. Skulls. That's going to do it here on the broadcasting desk. My name is Eric Desrux-Batran. Joining me on the desk was Dean Rebel Fox Merrick. Always a pleasure to have you. Be sure to check out that matchup that's happening right now on Academy. That is going to be Immortals AoE taking on Supernova. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.
I feel like last year it was really obvious that I was the best mid laner in Academy. This year, I'm looking to do the same thing.
Take a lot of damage. He's gonna get picked. Shockwave on 3. The combo from the Thieves. Team Liquid, and that's it. That's the game. That's the series. That is Proving Ground.
What helps people improve is not being afraid to take risks or kind of push a lane to the limits.
Getting low, but he can look for another one. He does get himself stunned, but again, the healing is just so massive. Misses Secudo. Safeguard is back on. What? He finds it with a Tempest. That's on! That's on! The man is going to try and 1v3. Here comes Joey. 1v4. Oh, we find Secudo.
carry. Congratulations. Hey, I see everybody behind. Oh, the double stun. Flash from Tenacity.
Oh, no.
He'll get the kill. Oh, no. Why did you charge the turret? Oh. Just force them in.
Tenacity.
Tenacity with a 5-man ultimate. The rockets. The resets. Tenacity with the triple kill. And
Oh my god.
your son catches Spawn in the middle of the dark passage. What a shutdown from TSM. Are they going to give him a pentakill on Sejuani to kick off Proving Grounds? I think they are. Pentakill to our man.
in the morning.